by the makers of the legendary Redline energy products. Make no mistake, Bang is not your stereotypical high-sugar, life-sucking soda masquerading as an energy drink. High-sugar drinks spike blood pressure, producing metabolic mayhem, causing you to crash harder than a test dummy into a brick wall. Power up with Bang's potent brain and body-rocking fuel, creatine, caffeine, CoQ10, and BCAAs, branched-chain amino acids. Life is an extreme sport, and Bang is the extreme energy source to live by. At the time of manufacturing, some vitamins are likely to degrade. 2017 Vital Performance Products. Blah, blah, blah.
You know what, Calder? That sounds great, but nothing gets me off my toes in a nice relaxed chair like Nebraska Brewing Company's IPA. Our West Coast-inspired Indian Pale Ale is rich in flavor and abundant in citrus-like piney and resiny aromatics created through a wonderful infusion of Citra hops, completely refreshing with an assertive, bordering on aggressive, crisp bitterness. Beautifully Nebraskan. Oh boy, we are not sponsored.
Hello and welcome back to Dial H for HeroClix. This is episode 278. I'm your sexy ranch hand co-host, Calder Ness. Howdy, howdy, let's get rowdy.
My stuff.
Dial H is actually brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, including all the latest HeroClix singles and sealed products. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com. Hello and welcome back to the show. Of course, joining by me this week is my co-host Simeon Bruce. What's going on, Simeon?
Ooh, I'm your dirty neckbeard with a shady past.
Do you have your trench coat and fedora?
I have several.
Your katana on the wall?
I do. I'm not gonna lie. I have a kimono on the wall.
Of course he does.
My sister lived in Japan, and she sent it back to me one time.
That's in Japan.
That
Spoiler
is.
alert for later segments. But all right, every show we like to start off with what made us happy this week. So Simeon, why don't you go ahead and kick us off there?
All right. It's fall-ish season, everyone. So this weekend, my family came down. Most of my family, a few exceptions. We went out to a pumpkin patch. Out in Nebraska, the biggest one, I believe, is Vala's Pumpkin Patch, which it's when you think of pumpkin patch, you kind of just imagine pumpkins and a patch maybe, and sometimes they have cider and refreshments, sometimes they have little activities. This is like a full-blown amusement park without the rides. There's there's two different haunted houses. There's an old pumpkin mine. They've got all these really old animatronics from the 70s, I have to imagine, and I have to take a guess that whoever made the animatronics didn't have a degree in anything. They just kind of hooked wires to electric motors and switches, and they were just this'll work. And it's quaint. But they have updated, so there's newer stuff too. That was really fun. We try and go once a year. They've got the big oversized chair that you can take your picture in. You're look at me, I'm so small in this huge chair. Oh, it's a hoot. That was fun though. And I got to spend time with my nephew for the first time in too long. He's getting old. I spent just enough time to remember that I'm not ready for children full time, so that was fun.
Nice. What maybe have this week? Also, kind of a weekend thing. I went to SuperCon here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. had a great time. I just love going to local comic anime conventions. They're always a hoot. They're always super fun. They're normally pretty cheap to get into, not the pricey $90 a day or more that some of these bigger conventions can be. And just hanging out. If you go to a lot of local conventions, eventually you just start to recognize kind of all the same people that show up. So it's really cool to kind of just hang out with your friends again the time you all feel obliged to. I did compete in the costume competition on Saturday, and I'm still ranked as novice per most rules, because in order to rank yourself up, no matter how long you've been doing it, you need to win, I believe, at least 2, for most competitions this is true, but at least 2 craftsmanship awards in a competition. And so far, I've won absolutely 0. I've won competitions before for like performance or a judge's choice, but I've never won craftsmanship. And I was very happy this competition. I finally won best in craftsmanship in the novice category with my Captain America suit, shield, and hammer, which was really cool. So I was really happy about that. That was awesome. And it was really big. It was really big for me. And so I really enjoyed this weekend. It was great hanging out with everybody and dressing up in costume and just having a great time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think anyone that tunes into usually you do them like Wednesday nights, right?
I really do them I like to do them on the weekends or Wednesday. I don't know why it's that day, why I think that's a good day to do it. But yeah, normally Wednesday nights on like my normal main Facebook account.
Yeah, I always catch them on Wednesday nights because Wednesday's one of my HeroClix nights. It's at one of my venues, and so I'll be like playing HeroClix and I'll get like a little Facebook alert, and so I usually try and tune in for a little bit. But yeah, you really deserve that. You put in a lot of work to those things, and your Captain America stuff looks really cool. So
yeah, thank you. If you didn't know what we're talking about, I do a live stream on my personal Facebook account. Try to do it every Wednesday or on a weekend sometime, Saturday or Sunday. Normally not Sunday, we record on Sunday. But if you ever want to see me and sort of my build process for whenever I make a new prop or like armor or something, go ahead and add me as a friend on Facebook. Turn on that notification bell. Hit subscribe. With that amazing transition, I can go ahead and talk about the Dial H for HeroClix YouTube channel. I've been wanting to do a lot more with it recently because I've been addicted to watching YouTube videos. Normally when I work on props and stuff, I watch a lot of television shows that I can put on in the background and sort of get about half of it out while I'm working on something and sort of get the gist of the show. So I've normally been watching something like a Arrow show or Supernatural, where I really don't care about what's actually happening, but I can still just get the gist, So I just have something on in the background, or music. Recently, I've just been looking at YouTube unboxing videos, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start doing that for the YouTube channel. A lot of people do it. They're really simple videos to make, and I'm just going to do it because I want to do it. So I went ahead and posted. I had to just recently buy a ton of HeroClix products. I bought a case of Regenesis, so I went ahead and I opened the first countertop display of Regenesis. You can check that out on the Dial H YouTube channel. I'm going to start uploading new unboxing videos every Thursday. I'm going to see if I can keep to that schedule. It's pretty simple. Uploading a video once a week is super easy. Like, for people that do like 2-3 videos a week, like all sorts of other HeroClix channels, I should be able to upload once a week. So always check in every Thursday for the Dial H YouTube for a new unboxing video. I also want to do gameplay videos. That is going to take longer to set up as I get advice from my good friends down in Nebraska to figure out how to do those. And once we do that, I can't wait to start videotaping some games for you guys. So that is fairly simple news there, but I think we could start the rest of the show off with talking about kind of keeping it really casual. Like news that I'm saying is there's no actual news this week in HeroClix, so we're just going to kind of go with the flow, although it was X-Men released this week, so I was thinking we could just go over. You played in your release, right, Simeon?
Yeah, I didn't play in too many pre-releases because we had Worlds going on, but I did get to... So my one venue decided a pre-release was enough, didn't want to do the normal release, and I don't blame them. $30 entry cost or $35, depending on what they want to do with MSRP, is kind of high for just like a weekly thing, especially with Regenesis toning down. So like some venues were doing like buy this week, buy next week, buy the next week. It's a lot. So I only did two actual release day events, one at Krypton, and then I did one at Dragon's Lair today. I did take home the gold, so to speak, which was the Magneto LE at Krypton or at Dragon's Lair today. Ended up in first place. Don't want to float my own boat, but no, I pulled really well. I pulled the Iceman super rare,
Okay.
which I mean, his cool thing about him. There's several cool things about him. He's an X-Men Retaliator for 15 points, but his one trait that if you KO, I think you have to KO a Colossal or Giant, and then you get to use Charge at no cost, but only to target a Colossal or Giant. That's like his big trait with blades on it.
Yeah.
I only managed to pull that off once because turns out in a sealed event you're only going to have at most 2 Colossals on the board, and most of the people that I played against didn't play any like retaliation clicks. They only played the 1 Colossal or maybe 2, and they'd be like full dial, so there wasn't a lot of KOing going on. But I pulled that Iceman, I pulled the uncommon Cyclops, I pulled Wolverine, I pulled the rare Jubilee, and I pulled the blue Phoenix, Rachel Summers. That's what I made my team out of. I also pulled the Jason Wingard Chase, which is the one that can bounce his like mind control off of characters.
Did you seriously pull the Jason Wingard Chase?
I did.
Okay. I'll wait till
I
you get
pulled
to
him.
mine. How did he work for you? How did he work out?
So I didn't end up playing him. So like I was looking at him and I was like, man, like I haven't ever pulled enough X-Men to actually play an X-Men theme team in any of these sealeds. And so I just really I had enough X-Men this time. I was like, man, I can just make it work. And I was 20 points under build. I came in at 280, but I played Iceman at 100, the Rachel Summers at 25, then Wolverine, Cyclops, and Jubilee. And so that ended up being my team. I sidelined Jason. I didn't have anything for his Pog generation, which was a big reason why I didn't play him. Other than that, like I looked at his dial and I was like, he's a little squishy, and I'd probably only get that mind control off once. And if someone's running like only 2 figures, that mind control is not going to do you any favors anyhow. So, or two figures or less, it's really not going to like pull its weight. So I decided not to run him. Did you have adverse effects when you ran yours?
So, yeah, spoiler alert, I pulled Jason Wingard as well in mine. And I was like, whoa, I finally pull a Chase. In all of my Battle Royales and anything, I've never seen a Chase pulled in like any of this set for whatever reason. I was never sitting at a table with a Chase, and it felt so cool to finally get a Chase, especially one that I think is good. And I was like, I also didn't have any Pog generators. My Colossals were not even Wendigo. It was Sasquatch and a Sentinel, a normal Sentinel. I'm like, okay, I'll play both of those, and I'll play whatever else. I even had Mesmer on my team. If I had a nickel for every mind control I made that night, I would have 10 cents, okay? Oh my gosh. Okay, I'd have more than 10 cents, but the only time Jason ever popped off his mind control I had a perplex too. I made him a 12 attack. To pop off his mind control, he hit Nimrod for 1 damage. He hit Beast for 3. And the rest of the entire night, he either failed at his first mind control, hit it, or failed at a breakaway, someone got a shape change. It never popped off the way I wanted to, and I was so mad. I was like, I have this crazy, pretty good solid attacker with, my Sentinel, running shot, pen blast. He can just boom, smoke people. I've got, I even had a Sabretooth on my team. Like I thought I had a great team, and it was so, we played 400 points. If someone's like counting at home,
Ooh.
like this ain't adding up. We played 400 points.
See, we did a AI event at 400 points because we were like, chances are that someone will pull something that they can play higher. That is such a rough call because for the people that pull, like you said, you pulled a Sentinel and Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, for people that pull like not the best 2x2s, you're giving such a leg up to the people that can run Dark Phoenix at 300 plus another 100 points of like support backup attackers or whatever. Or play Juggernaut at 300 with the Magneto 2x2 at 100 or something. I get why you would run it like that, because in theory it should be better for everyone, and it's also boring to build to 300 all the time.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, like in AI I pulled the one event that played to 3 or 400. I pulled Supremor, which is the Kree guy.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember everything that he does, but I also pulled Eternity, who copies all keywords when he like joins a force, and I played him at 250 and Supremor at 150 or 100 or something, and then I had some filler piece. I had some little filler piece that didn't really end up mattering. It was like an ego antibody, so I didn't have a theme team. But at 250, Eternity just never takes an action token.
Yep.
And then Supremor gives him a +1 because he's got Kree keyword. And then I hit myself with the Pulse Wave from Supremor, which gives you +1 combat values for the rest of the game. And then Supremor also has Perplex. So at one point, my Eternity was just dishing out 7 damage while not taking action tokens. And my opponent was like, well, I'm going to clear this turn. And I was like, blam, that guy's dead. Blam, that guy's dead. Like, next turn, blam, that guy's dead. Does 7 damage kill this guy? Blam, yes it does. Like, it was bad. It was bad for everyone. Except for me.
Yeah. My pre-release was just terrible. All the Magnetos, I didn't get any. Didn't deserve any. Only won one game, but still. And Mesmero, also a funny thing about Mesmero is I never played in a battle royale with him in it ever either. So I actually had no idea what he did either. This is my first time. I didn't know he had his cool mastermind people.
Thing.
Like, that's dope.
Yep.
Had no idea that was a thing. His walking off edges is cool. If you ever, hit with Mastermind, not Mastermind, Mind Control, but that never happened. So yeah, no, it's
so one really thing that there's several characters out there that have like these like funky. So there's like a morph where if you shape change, you can have them pick like one of their friendly targets instead. Then there's Mesmero where you can Mastermind to like one of their targets. And then there's the old LE Mastermind who had Mastermind tokens. There's the Purple Man who had something similar. The thing that I always notice about these guys is there's no way to like really force, unless you build around the trait, there's no way to really force your opponent into attacking them in the way that would benefit you. So unless your opponent has no idea what that character does and they just like shoot at Mesmero right away, they're just like, I'm gonna hypersonic up and blast this guy, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna mastermind it to that guy. Like, unless you're being sneaky,
yeah,
most of the time you can just completely avoid it. And so it's like, I played Mesmero in one of the I think it was a pre-release. I played Mesmero, and he was like a mind control piece basically, and I never once got to use the mastermind thing because I told people, oh, if you shoot at him from range, he can mastermind to a friendly, like one of your friendly characters. And they're like, all right, so I can just punch him though, right? And I was like, yes, but I'd prefer if you shot at him from range, please.
Yep.
And they just, they say no.
So, hardcore whatever. Playing with the Indigo batteries, so they have to be within 4, but also playing with Anaconda or Lashina, so they have to stop.
They got plasticity.
Yeah, plasticity at the 3 square whatever thing.
We got the new Exodus too, who can be like
or him as well.
2 square when like the X is 2 squares this game. So if you try and charge me, you have to move. You have to stop movement within 2 squares.
Just please don't sidestep, please.
Yeah, my X-Men team was able to take down a 125-point onslaught with random and Cable.
Nice.
Nice. I managed to beat Devin, who was running Magneto at 200 points and Mystique, and that was his whole team. He was like, I think he's like 40 points under build or something, but it was Brotherhood theme. So going into that game, it was hilarious. Going into that game against Devin today, I knew that Magneto started with that retaliation on 200 points. I was like, okay, So I want to knock him off that before I deal any damage to Mystique. But I also had Wolverine on my team, and if he's within 3, people can't use stealth or shape change. And Mystique has stealth and shape change top dial. So I was like, big brain move here. I'm going to TK Wolverine over. Cyclops made his leadership roll, so I gave Wolverine the free half movement thing. So Wolverine moves up, and then I was like, I'm in just enough close range, I can attack Mystique this turn. So I attack with Wolverine, he probs me into a miss. Like, okay, no big deal. I attacked with Iceman, hit. I was like, oh yeah, Mystique just took 3 damage. This is like, super good for me right now. Next turn, he makes like 4 attacks against me because Magneto retaliates.
Retaliation, pulse wave, telekinesis object. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh no. Luckily, so I swear, the more fun I'm having in a game, like the more casual I feel I'm playing, the better the dice go in my favor. Like my opponent always just starts like rolling really low, and I always start rolling really high. Like I should probably actually keep track because it's probably just in my brain that this is what happens. But I swear, the more fun I'm having in a game, and I was having fun in this game, the more fun I'm having, the more it's just like, all right, here's a big hit. I only need like a 4 to hit you, and they'll roll a 3. And I'm just like, huh. That's like one of 2 options you could have rolled, huh? A 1 and a 2 or a 1 and a 1 were the only things that would have missed. Huh. And then I rolled so many 11s and like 12s today that I almost wanted to check my own dice to see if they were loaded.
And they were. No, probably not.
They were ROC dice, so
I assume, yeah.
You'd have to check with Howard Brock on if he loaded the 2019 ones.
Hey, do you know if this specific pair of Rock 2019 month whatever dice are loaded?
Yeah. And then my last matchup was against the Green Dragon at full points.
Puff.
And, Green Puff Dragon with the little Lockheed baby. On it. It's a really cool sculpt with Lockheed on it.
It is really cool.
He played that, and then he pulled the Prime Colossus, the 2x2 Colossus,
cool.
Which was really cool. He opted to play that on its retaliation click, and then he played Beast. So turn 1, he moved up. I won roll off because I had a +5 theme. Turn 1, I moved my guys to where he could really he could make the shot with the Puff Dragon because he's got hypersonic on his top click with an 11 for 5 or something like that. And I was like, I can probably take 5 damage. That'll probably be all right. So I moved my guys up to where I could potentially hit him next turn if he decided to try and make that attack. And then he moved up. He carried Beast up with Colossus and gave Colossus a 20 defense with Beast. And I was just like, ooh, that's rough. I don't have any Perplex or anything on this team, so he did make the shot. He did hypersonic and try and shoot Iceman, and he missed by 1 because I parked him in hindering, all 4 squares of hindering on the release day map. It was on the Krakoa Island kind of thing. Savage Land, I think is the map name. I parked him in hindering, and so he missed by 1 after I theme probbed it. Then I outwitted the Puff Dragon's Impervious. I charged Colossus with my Iceman because he's got a 6 square charge on his 100-point line. And so it was a 12 into a 20. I needed an 8, and I got it. And I didn't roll for Blades, of course, because he was playing all in retaliation only. So he missed his Impervious roll. I somehow managed to hit. He missed his Impervious roll, and then this is the one time I got to do the second charge, and I charged the Green Puff Dragon and missed. And so I was like, after I was like, oh, big brain move here. I'm going to outwit knowing that I'm going to hit Colossus. But No, that match was really fun too. His dice went in my favor. He crit missed twice in that game, so that was good for me.
No, nice, dude. Right on.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, I hope everybody else. Well, I know you had a good pre-release because you won, but I hope everybody else had a great, not pre-release, normal release. And I actually haven't even checked out the map yet. I did get that, which is cool. So I need to flip that open and see what it does and all that neat stuff.
They're like two of the hardest maps to physically look at that I remember in recent memory from like release day, like set releases. The island map, like Savage Land, has a bunch of weird blocking where it makes it really hard to place your 2x2 figures.
Okay.
And so I don't personally like them because it does require a little bit more intelligent play rather than my normal style of throw everything in the middle and hope I survive so I can attack next turn. It requires a little bit more finesse. So that map's like interesting for that, and it's outdoor and it's only got elevated, so all your 2x2 giants and colossals can be seen by like most normal standard size figs on that map. And then the other map is the Sentinel Factory, and there's like water that's bordering on hindering, that's bordering on elevated, that's bordered by blocking, and it's just like such a mismatch of elevation and like blocking and stuff that map was. I just never played on that map if I could help it because it was such a headache to try and maneuver and like draw lines of fire and stuff on certain points. It was really good for hiding 2x2s though. There's like a lot of little areas you could hide 2x2s in.
Okay, cool. That's kind of speaking of maps like that. I really hate the way the museum looks. There's so much dotted lines. It looks just such like a busy map.
Yeah, because you've got the Battle Royale line, which is like the new orange dash line.
Yep.
And then on that map, you've got the blue dash line, which is windows.
Mm-hmm. Then you have all the other blocking terrain and stuff going on at the weird angles. I was, side tangent, Saturday at the convention, there was kind of a game room. There was an RPG room, and then there was like a normal tabletop game room. And the person who I asked before the convention started a few like months ago, who said he was going to run the HeroClix events, trying to get people into the game in our area, got too lazy. I mean, he knows. You know what I'm talking about, Doug. Not that he's listening, but he didn't feel like doing it. Kind of got there late, and I was like, hey man, if you still have all your stuff, I would love to sit down and set up and teach anyone about the game, because you know me, I love the game. I want as many people to play it as possible. I think it's really fun. I think it should be more popular. I really think people could really enjoy it. So I sat down, sat up, had a little sign, and tried to get as many people in the game. First guy, kind of not into it. Then I had a group of like 3 people. You know, I'm like, all right, cool, we can play on a Battle Royale map. Had a bunch of pre-made teams, whatever. I was kind of flipping through the maps that he had. He had the month one for Genesis, so I'm like, cool. I look at the first side, which is like the up staircase, outdoor, whatever side with all the hindering and stuff, which I'm like, this is kind of a weird map. What's on the other side? Realizing I'd never played on the other side before in all of month one, and I was like, oh, this looks way too confusing. Back to the other side. That's what we're using. So yeah, no, that was also really cool. At the convention was teaching people how to play, which is fun. So I really, really enjoyed that. If you ever had the chance to teach people how to play, absolutely do it. You know, I like to do no powers and then just move close and range actions is all you can do. It's super, kind of dumbs it down, but
yeah,
I think it's good for teaching people.
I had a guy approach me at a venue not too long ago, and he was like, oh, like, what do you guys call this game? And I was like, oh, like, well, I didn't tell him what the name of the game was right away for some reason. That would have been the best move in hindsight. I said, have you ever played a D&D encounter? And he's like, yeah, I've been playing D&D for 20 plus years. A lot of times at game shops, you'll run into people that either have experience with D&D or maybe Pathfinder or Shadowrun or some other RPG element game. HeroClix, for those who haven't played D&D and a game similar, HeroClix is played very similar to how a encounter happens in D&D, where you'll roll for initiative, you'll have like bonuses, and you'll roll for initiative. You usually fight on a grid kind of style map. Sometimes you don't have like a map and they just kind of explain to you where like the opponents are, and you don't have to like place things and stuff. But I always thought it was cooler to have a grid style map and have like, monsters and stuff like that. WizKids actually makes, the 3D models for D&D.
Oh yeah.
So you can use those now too. Which is what got me into HeroClix originally. Side tangent here. I originally just co-opted HeroClix sculpts for my D&D campaigns because I was too lazy to paint, and they were pre-painted. So Gorilla Grodd got turned into a bugbear. For those that know, they know. But other than that, a lot of D&D characters have, like, you can make an action that is a move, and then you can make an action that's an attack. You can do your cantrips, you can do certain spells, so it's very similar to like free actions, power actions. If someone's played D&D, I think that it translates to HeroClix pretty easily. And as I explained it to this guy, he was like, "Wow, this sounds a lot like HeroClix." And I was just like, "Oh, well, that's because it is." And he's like, "Oh, I used to play back in like 2003, but I thought that they like died or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, they did, but they had a Phoenix down, so they resurrected with NECA and all that stuff." But I could have saved myself like 5 minutes of explanation had I just told the guy the name of the game.
Oh, it's called HeroClix. Yeah.
But I do enjoy teaching new players. It's hard to go from the knowledge that I'll pretend I have to like base knowledge. So if you start off with just what's on the dial, no powers, and you're like, this is how you move, this is what you do for attacks, stuff like that, and then you slowly build in the basic powers, that's pretty much the easiest way to do it. And then you have to go from that to like, well, charge can be combined with flurry, and that can be combined with blades, but it can't be combined with exploit because that's a different action type. And
it gets the game's a little convoluted sometimes. Does it say can or does it say may? And I'm like, are you
is
serious?
It a capital close or is it a lowercase close?
Exactly.
Stuff like that. Yep.
Another fun thing about that was I had a group of three brothers sit down. They're younger kids. One was named Marcus, the other was Marquez, and the last one was Mark. And then like after they all introduced themselves, I was like, "Are you serious, or is that a joke?" And they were like, "No, those are our names." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right."
That's super cool. Yeah.
I was very uncommon. I was like, "All right."
Sounds like George
Marcus?
Foreman's family.
So
where it's like George Jr., George Foreman. Like, I'm just gonna call you Grill.
Yeah, I was like, they all look the same age. I'm like, I really hope you guys are triplets or something. Otherwise, maybe a little lazy. I'm not gonna judge your parents or anything, but it's a little lazy on someone's part. Anyways, to kind of finish that up, I want to mention again this week. We're just kind of rolling with it, guys. I hope you're enjoying this podcast because I am. The Rock website I sent in to The Rock about a year or so ago. Not really. Trying to remember. It took a while because I went back and forth and then I forgot about it for a while and then I actually messaged them the right thing. But there's a podcast tab and we weren't on the podcast tab. A bunch of other people were, and some of these people aren't even podcasts. So I was like, well, we should be on there. We're a fun podcast, I like to think. So I messaged Lucky Dice and gave them a quick our logo, and then I gave them a quick little description of the podcast. This was in February I did this, and I decided that since we updated our logo, it still wasn't on the website, so I decided to update our logo. And I was like, well, if they ever do put us on there, I want to make sure they have the updated logo, so that way the information is right. I updated the logo, but I forgot to look at my other emails and update the description. So our description on I almost said Lucky Dice again. On the Rock website is Chris Britton and Calder Ness talk HeroClix every week, and as you guys know, new co-host is Simeon Bruce. Good guy. Yeah.
We've been over this. I am the Dippin' Dots to Chris's ice cream. No one asked for me, but I am here.
the future ice cream. That only shows up at like zoos and random places.
I was the future of ice cream back in 2005, and it turns out I was only a novelty then.
Who'd have thunk? But we do have the updated logo on there. Fun fact, if you go to it right now, I did send an email. Hopefully it does get fixed, but our description is on there twice. It's the second description for podcasts, and then it's also the last description for podcasts. So Dial H is up there twice, which probably makes us twice as good as any other show, clearly. So, that's awesome. But yeah, no, check it out. We're finally on the Rock Podcast app, so hopefully that gets us some new listeners. So if you are, this is super late in the show, but if you're a new listener, Dial H, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate that, especially if the RSC brought you here. With that, we did want to talk about a few things that did pop up this week. Then sort of news, not news, but there were some rules, not necessarily updates, but clarifications that were answered. And Simeon has all those pulled up, so we can go ahead and just get into those, see what we like about them, see what we don't like about them,
Yeah, so if you didn't know, you can go to win.wizkids.com and, or if you just type in Google WizKids rules, you can, I think it's one of like the top results. You can find the forum where they answer questions and they issue erratas, and sometimes they issue clarifications that become erratas because everyone was playing it a different way. So you can see they actually wiped it back in 2017 when they did the new rules update. So most of the oldest, like the old rules for a lot of stuff going like way back are gone. So you can't look those up at all anymore. But we've got some new stuff going on this week. So one of the more interesting ones that I saw was for Everett K. Ross. The question was, if I play 2 Everett K. Ross, that's the 30-point S.H.I.E.L.D. guy from S.H.I.E.L.D. / Wakanda guy, diplomat, Wakanda named guy from Avengers, Black Panther, Illuminati. If I play 2 Everett K. Ross, can I use each to modify a combat value by +2 on the same character as long as I choose different combat values? So Everett K. Ross has a Perplex, and he can choose to modify a combat value by +2 instead. At the end of your turn, if you do, you roll a d6. On a 1 through 4, he takes 1 unavoidable damage. Really good for 30 points. +2 modifier is pretty good for 30. Plus, he's got shield team ability, so he could actually modify 4 combat values for 1 action, damage, range, and then whatever you add the +2 to. So the question was, if you used more than 1 Everett K. Ross, can they modify more than 1 combat value, even though his thing says unique? Turns out, no. A character can only be affected by 1 unique modifier with the same name, regardless of which combat values are being modified. So if a character says unique modifier, it doesn't matter how many you're playing. So Fabian Cortez, for example, has unique modifier because he is unique, so you can't play more than 1 Fabian Cortez anyhow.
Sure.
But if you could, turns out you'd only be able to do it with 1 per person named that. So this means that Everett K. Ross is, I mean, he's worth the 1 on a team because he's 30 points with the double perplex and shield team ability. He's not worth probably putting 2 on your team anymore. I know I've got a box with about 6 because I was going to make like a Everett K. Ross battery team where I just turned somebody into like a monster every turn or something.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not quite that level anymore.
That's not going to happen anymore.
Looks like I'll have to go back to the old Big Tony route. Biggest Anthony.
Thick Anthony.
So I mean, as you can see, if you haven't ever gone through these rules questions before, most of the time it's just a clarification, whereas a more versed person in the rule book might have already caught that a unique modifier would do that. It's nice for the layman to be able to just click on these, or even like search Everett K. Ross, and this will pull up. If you're a judge at a local venue and somebody has a question, sometimes this is a good resource for that. Another interesting one was for Jason Wingard. I heard somebody pulled a Jason Wingard recently.
Jeez.
Maybe.
The poor sap. The idiot.
So the question was, if I played 2 Jason Wingards, do I need to include separate figures on my sideline for each one, or can they share the figure on the sideline for this trait? This question is it's about his trait, Psionic Illusion, where free, choose a character on your sideline of 150 points or less on their highest point line, so no Groots. Generate a bystander printed on that character's card. Each bystander generated this way has max 1. You may activate this ability only twice per game. So the question was, can you use the same sideline figure? So you've only got, in an average 300-point game, you've only got 9 sideline figures that you can get through. So if you're trying to be frugal and you don't want a ton of sideline taken up by Jason, and you have 2 Jasons, you'll be happy to know that you can use just one figure on your sideline to pull in stuff. So if I put Stegron on my sideline and I was playing 2 Jason Wingards, I could pull in a T-Rex for each Jason Wingard from my 1 Stegron. I could also pull in a Stegosaurus for each Jason, and they've got the Mystics, so stuff like that. So if you played one Mr. Sinister, you could bring in, each Jason Wingard could bring in 2 of the Nasty Boys from the 1 Mr. Sinister.
But that makes sense, though. The way I'm reading and understanding, that makes sense. None of the wording in his trait would make you feel like it wouldn't allow that.
Right. And so it's mostly clarification stuff for, like the weird kind of, because HeroClix has a lot of interesting powers that lead to like rules questions like this, and so it's nice to just get these clarifications out of the way sometimes. The next one is one that I actually really, really don't like. So this one involved shape change, object actions, which object actions replaced just normal like object attacks. That's why you can't hypersonic an object attack anymore, because you need a close, capital close, and hypersonic doesn't give you that anymore. So the question was, if I target someone with an object attack and they succeed at shape change, do I still destroy the object? And then a second part of the question was, can I just choose to activate an object action without a target just so I can KO the held object? Now, object action reads, close. If this character is holding an object, make a close attack targeting a single character and modify damage +1 if the object is light, or +2 if the object is heavy. Immediately after the attack resolves, KO the object. The response to this from WizKids was yes, for question 1, the shape change. Yes, the attack resolves with no target, so the object would be KO'd. Now, I don't know if... That one I have an issue with, just because I feel like if shape change resolves and there's no other target that you can choose, you don't get to the attack portion, which doesn't trigger the close object action portion. That's how I feel. Clearly it's been ruled this way, so I am wrong, but I just feel like that one, like if someone shape changes, you don't actually roll to attack. And if you don't roll to attack, I feel like the object doesn't get broken.
It would just be...
like with super senses, it's like, yeah, you swung the object, but you missed, So that's different. Shape change is just you never swing the object, in my opinion.
Why would I throw this at nothing?
Well, it's like, I was about to smash Superman in the head with this trash can, but it turns out that was my grandma. So the trash can doesn't, like, implode in my hands. I'm like, oh no, I better not hit Grandma with this. So I'm still holding the trash can, looking for Superman to smash him with it. Sure. But, the Grandma's standing there, so I'm not going to hit Grandma.
No. You know who would hit Grandma? Carol Danvers would hit Grandma, like in a heartbeat.
That's when you fail the shape change roll. Or maybe Wolverine was within 3 squares,
that's
and
right.
So the Skrull couldn't use shape change.
The nose, no, bud.
Yeah, I do. I did get quite a bit of mileage out of that trait today. So the second half of the question was, can I just choose to activate an object action without a target just so I can KO the held object? The answer to that was yes. Note that in both examples, the character is not considered to have attacked, so effects that trigger off a character making an attack would not trigger. Which leads me to, isn't destroying an object an effect that triggers off of making an attack? But, I mean, clearly not, again, because they've ruled it as no, so I am wrong. According to WizKids, I am wrong. But I just feel like if the attack isn't made, you're not swinging the object. The problem, so this is all fine and good when you're talking about light and heavy objects as standard objects, but when you get into equipable objects, actual equipment, this gets into like a gray area because objects that have indestructible, such as Ock Arms, Mjolnir, any of the Infinity Gems, any of the Mandarin Rings. All of these say indestructible, but they are destructible in object attacks. That's the one way you can get rid of these objects. So this leads into you can now TK like an equipable item that normally wouldn't be able to be destroyed. You can TK it, not even target somebody, and just TK it at nothing and destroy it. You can pick up, like I could have like a Mudman pick up Exospecs and then swing it at nothing, and the Exospecs just destroy. I could have, what's somebody with super strength? I could have Hulk.
Batman. Sure, Hulk.
Oh, 8 Batman. Let's go with 8 Batman. I could TK out 8 Batman, sidestep him, pick up your Mjolnir, and then range combat action, attack nothing with it, and it's destroyed. So, I have a problem with this thematically. I get why it works as a game mechanic, but I have a severe problem with this thematically, because you know what gets thrown a lot in comics, Calder?
What's that?
Mjolnir. That's kind of like the big thing that Thor does with it, is like swing it and throw it at stuff. So, the fact that you can... An opposing character can be like, not only am I not worthy, but also I'm just going to throw this hammer at nothing and it's going to explode because, it's forged in Uru, which is clearly made out of like balsa wood or something now. I'm just going to throw this at nothing and it's going to disintegrate itself. I clearly have strong feelings about this, so I'm gonna let you go while I scream at the wall as it disintegrates because I'm doing nothing to it.
Turning every character into Hela, just like shatter it in your own hand. Like, I can't pick this up normally, but I can look at it, move it with my mind, and then just explode it midair. Thanks, I hate it. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen. So that's something you can do. Those Dr. Octopus's Ock Arms. Well, it's really Miss Octopus. She might be a doctor, I guess. I don't know. Miss Octopus, her Ock Arms, giving your Vulture a little bit too much of an edge in the fight. We'll just call in that Jean Grey, and she can go ahead and TK that into nowhere, and it'll just blow up, and your opponent will be like, well, that sucks. And you can continue on with the rest of your game.
So I was half tempted to do a Simeon soapbox on this, because I think that they need to rein back what is indestructible. Because I think that if you took Ock Arms, unless they're adamantium Ock Arms, I think if you just took Ock Arms, you should be able to just like shoot them and they'd blow up or like be damaged beyond use. You wouldn't be able to flurry with them.
Yeah.
However, there are clearly objects in the Marvel Universe that truly are meant to be indestructible unless like a crazy amount of force or like Infinity Gauntlet is thrown at them. So I think they should dial back what they give indestructible to, and the few things they do give it to should actually maybe be indestructible, because thematically it's just super silly now that like whether you're using Stormbreaker, Thunderstrike, Mjolnir, any of the like Cap's shield, anything like that, you can honestly just like toss it on the ground a few feet away from you, and it's just destroyed. And I just don't know how to feel about that, because you're technically declaring a ranged object action. So since you declared it, it now gets to resolve, and the object is destroyed in that. Which, honestly, should Mjolnir be destroyed in a close object action? Like, I don't have it equipped. Should I be able to hit somebody with Mjolnir, and it just gets destroyed when I hit him with it? Because that's another thing that Thor does all the time. It's kind of, it's kind of a weapon that he hits people with in every comic that he doesn't not have it in,
Yeah, clearly not. I think objects need to be reworked just slightly to make them a little more thematic, especially stuff like Mjolnir that really shouldn't be destroyed in all these ways. Indestructible, but still like super destructible, like not great. I think we need to rework what destructible means. So it's not just like, yeah, you can totally destroy it in an object attack still, but also like, do we want people paying 3 points for a heavy object that will always give them +2 and never go away? Like that's also not a great fix for it either, for just an indestructible object that can keep holding and keep smacking someone over the head with over and over again. Like, not super amazing, but there's a fix in there somewhere. I don't have to fix it. That's not my job. So
yeah, we used to have the tank turret that was, remind me. I'm pretty sure the tank turret object was not only indestructible, like you could use it in multiple attacks. It also was a super heavy, so it was giving you +3. So, I mean, clearly there's like a median somewhere between the outright like gross and like something that makes sense thematically, because right now we're working with Mjolnir is like one of the weakest objects in the MCU, because Jean Grey can just like toss it into a corner and it explodes.
So actually, looking at the tank turn, this one isn't bad. Characters less than 100 points can't hold this object, and then this object can't be the target of telekinesis. That is awesome. That should be on Mjolnir. Besides, I mean, like, if you're under 100 points, you really shouldn't be worthy of it. I know there's a ton of Captain Americas under 100 points. He's clearly the exception, in my opinion. But, like, that should totally be a thing. Indestructible has. This object can't be the target of telekinesis. That's a dope trait. There we go. We fixed it. You already fixed it in the past, like with the first one you made. So.
And if we're gonna go that route, the symbiote was immobile. Mjolnir super could have just been immobile, and that would have made a ton of sense, because if you're not worthy, like if you are worthy, you have to stand in the square and pick it up yourself. Yeah. If you aren't worthy, then like you can't TK it, you can't just like grab it and carry it around kind of thing.
Yeah, immobile also 100% makes sense for Mjolnir. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Is that everything for changes and clarification? Not really changes, but clarifications wise.
That is all that I think is really relevant as of now.
Okay.
If anyone wants to go on there, if you're having trouble finding it, just message us on Facebook and I can provide a link. But really, like, there's so much to go over. Let's see, there's one for, I'll go over two more. There's one for Blob from the newest set. So the question was, if my opponent uses mind control on Blob during their turn, can he move Blob? This is in reference to nothing moves the Blob. He is immobile, but only if it's not your turn. And at the end of your turn, if Blob was not moved or placed this turn, give him a stability token. Blob modifies defense +1 for each stability token. So the question was, if someone mind controls it, they become friendly to their force. Can they then move him, even though he has that trait? The answer is yes. Blob would be friendly to your opponent during their turn, so the immobile effect would not apply. So this is more of on the clarification side, because it is like one of those kind of niche things where it's like, they're technically opposing, but during mind control they're technically friendly. So how does that work? And then there's one more on Nimrod. So Nimrod's got that rollout thing where if he matches or exceeds the opponent's attack, they take their printed damage. So the question was, if Nimrod is attacked and the attack is a critical hit, would Nimrod still get to roll for his trait? The answer was no. When a character becomes a target or becomes hit, it bypasses any would-be effects. So this is actually different than what I thought it was going to be, because it was similar enough to the AI Thanos, the 2x2 Thanos, that I thought they would rule it the same. It's not worded exactly the same, so that's why they ruled it differently. But with the AI Thanos, he had a similar thing where he could roll and you would take the damage instead of him. And what that one became was, if you crit hit, it wasn't evading the attack, which is why I think Thanos got to do it. But if you crit hit Thanos, he would still take the full damage plus the crit hit damage, but the opposing character would also take the damage minus the crit hit damage, so they'd just take the printed damage if he matched the roll. So if you crit hit Nimrod, he does have a weakness. Nimrod cannot avoid crit hits, so all you gotta do is, roll 2 6s against Nimrod.
Super that's easy. So easy.
Super easy, super tip from Dial H.
And that's such a reliable thing to count on as well. So.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
Base most of my matches on being able to crit hit things.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. All right, well that is great. It's going to be all the rules update and clarifications, which will steadily move us on to the community section of the podcast.
There are dozens of us. Dozens!
This week's Community Tuesday's question was, after hearing us blast the Living Tribunal last episode, what's a figure you feel is severely underpowered in HeroClix? Simeon, what is your choice for an underpowered figure in HeroClix?
So I already did Living Tribunal.
That's right.
So I'm gonna go. No, I'm not gonna go into Living Tribunal further. Although I could. I could very, very easily go into Living Tribunal further. I'm actually going to go into Superman, because we've gotten a lot of good Supermans over the year, over the course of HeroClix history. There's some great Supermans out there, but I don't feel like we've gotten a great one recently. If you are a fan of Superman comic books, which why wouldn't you be? You'd have to be some sort of ranch hand to not think Superman's the best. No, if you actually are a fan of Superman comics, you'll know that it takes quite a lot to damage him. It takes quite a lot for it to come to his level, for him to struggle against. The guy in I think in the Rebirth comics in New 52, they were testing out his strength, and he was able to lift 8 times the weight of Earth or something silly like that, which led me to question, how can you test that at all? Because you can't lift the weight of the planet 8 times when you're on the planet, because there's nothing to lift that's that heavy, and also physically you would just destroy whatever object you're pressing against. But I digress. No, I think they need to make a Superman, or at least some DC character, villain, otherwise, that is on the same power level as what they gave Unimind. Unimind is just crazy powerful, and he's kind of like a nobody Marvel character. Unless you're really big into the Eternals, he kind of is just I don't want to say a one-off character, but he's a very back burner, something they haven't revisited in a long time character, and he's crazy powerful compared to any Superman, literally any Superman for the same points. Unimind is better by tenfold, and it's a little silly to me that we haven't gotten a Superman that can stand toe-to-toe with stuff like that for the same points. So that's my choice.
Okay, cool. Let me just... Yeah, hello. I would like to issue a new co-host. We got a Superman lover in the house. We need to cut that out. So yeah, just get back to me. And okay. Oh no, wait. This is me. I call the shots. That's right. Okay. I'm gonna have some news for you after the show. Just come back into my office, right, Simeon? Anyways, a character I think is severely underpowered.
You can't fire me, I quit. If you say Captain America...
I'm not going to say Captain America. We've actually had an overabundance of really good Captain Americas.
Yeah, we really
Earth X
have.
Captain America is amazing. The latest Black Panther rare Captain America is, to me, like the pinnacle of Captain Americas ever. Besides the fact that he doesn't have a cool shield ricochet style ability, I think the rest of the dial is like pure red, white, and blue, just perfect, like comic accurate Captain America. I really cannot complain about how powerful I think Captain Americas are. I do think Ghost Riders aren't very powerful, in my opinion. I really, maybe it's because I really like Ghost Rider and I hype him up a lot. He was very powerful at a time, but it wasn't Ghost Rider that made him powerful. It was Bat Belt, non-errata adheres for higher ATA, and like all this other stuff. You know, he had back then bad shredders. Like when he had a token, he could plink someone, and he had mystics. Like he was still a good figure, and I still really like that Ghost Rider. But now we have like Ghost Rider with just like Ram or whatever. I want a scary Hellfire. Like Ghost Rider should terrify. And this Ghost Rider Mammoth is just terrible. For the points, he's super underpowered. So I feel Ghost Rider throughout a lot of HeroClix is not the terrifying presence. Like if you saw a person with a flaming skull walking toward you, and you know he has the power of like hell and damnation to judge your soul for eternity, like that's terrifying. And you can shoot him with bullets and you can spit him back out at you. It's awesome. It's insane. And maybe it's because I was playing a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom this weekend, but like Ghost Rider's so good in that game especially. I will destroy anyone at Marvel vs. Capcom 4 Infinite. Just don't at me. Just Ghost Rider's stupid good. In my hands, that is. Everybody else just sucks.
I can agree with that, yeah, because the Penance Stare alone is something that's hard to translate to HeroClix.
It is. No, it is, yeah.
But in the old Fantastic Four cartoon, they're fighting Galactus, and Ghost Rider Penance Stares Galactus, and he just like stumbles backwards and like falls over because it's like the souls of like millions of worlds that he's consumed that are like coming back to haunt him. So I'd like to see a Ghost Rider that can Penance Stare Galactus and actually pull it off. Yeah. A passive effect like that, even if they only gave it like penetrating damage within like range value, or penetrating poison within range or something like that, that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, he's got so many. That'd be a character that would really make sense for shifting focus. But he's got so many cool things, and
shifting focus or a really dope title character. Like,
yeah,
I could see him doing his ultimate being the Penance Stare, where he grabs someone and just like hellfire and just like, you know, breathes at him or like whatever he does. Like we just need a sick Ghost Rider, like so bad. Like if you look back at the Amazing Spider-Man one, and I'm just looking at his dial again just for a reference, for 145 points, it's kind of terrible now. Like yikes, man, this is bad. This is really bad. Oh jeez. Oh my god, he has 6 usable clicks. He has like a 15 with regen. Like this is yikes. Hellfire, which is 2 action tokens. You give him a free action and deal 1 pen to opposing character within 3 squares. Like what?
Yeah.
That's his attack power. It's not even a trait, so you get knocked off that. I mean, like, oh, dude, that's so rough. But oh man, yeah, no, he's rough now. I really do feel like they make Ghost Riders pretty underpowered, and it's been since we got a normal one. It was Avengers Defenders War, so I think we're overdue for a normal Ghost Rider, and especially a good Ghost Rider. But going into, I'll start us off here on Twitter. Going into what everybody else thought, we have let me double check. Citizen Chris Kurtz, and he says Juggernaut. He doesn't think one maid lives up to that guy. This is difficult because we just got a really stupid good Juggernaut just recently.
Yeah, that 300-point monster, that 2x2. Honestly, I don't know. Just his defense click alone is the pinnacle of what Juggernaut is. Unoutwittable. Can't mind control. Can't pen psi. Not that Pensai works on Invincible anyhow, but can't outwit, you can't really do anything. Is it protected pulse wave? I think it is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so like you honestly can't do anything unless you have like someone that can take away protected outwit, and that's, I mean, there's several figures that can do that in the game, but not enough that it doesn't make him scary. No matter, like, even if I'm playing Possessor, the guy that the Eternal, or not Eternal, the Elder of the Marvelverse. I don't know, what are they called? The Elders, I think. The one that can take away protected outwit as a free action, and then he also has that outwit on that click. Even if you're playing him, outwitting the Juggernaut and maybe getting like 2 shots off, he's probably going to hit you for a lot anyhow.
No, yeah, for sure. If this was, let's scroll back here, 2015, I would agree.
Yep.
I would agree. Because
the Uncanny
Uncannies, they weren't great. The Deadpool Juggernaut, terrible combat values. The Invincible Iron Man Juggernaut is 100% garbage. He is so bad. So incredibly terrible. The Invincible Iron Man Juggernaut is a spit in the face to anyone that likes Juggernaut. But yeah, dude, if it was that era, I'd totally agree and say, yeah, no, we don't have a good Juggernaut. We don't have a definitive Juggernaut yet. But this new one is...
What about the free comic book day Charles Xavier Juggernaut?
Yeah, but that's not Kane Marco, you know? Like, that's Charles. That's a what if. I don't think any what if character should ever count for a definitive version or whatever. So yeah, go ahead and hit us with the next one on Facebook.
All right. So on Facebook, David Herberger says the last Amazo made was a scaled down version. I love the dial, but I would like to see an Amazo that is capable of taking down several Justice League members. So Amazo, I think he was able to like adapt. He was kind of like the DC version of it, like an Adaptoid, or Doomsday, I guess. He was similar to Doomsday, where he could, like, if he made physical contact with a Justice League member, he could like copy what they could do. And so that makes sense. Somebody that has the speed of the Flash, the strength of Superman, the lasso of truth of Wonder Woman, the brains of Batman, the phasing of Martian Manhunter. I'm sure there's something I'm missing. Energy explosion from Green Arrow. Sure.
Looking at Amazo, yeah, he's super lame. Yikes. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Sure. Now we have Demon Hunter. That's his superhero rank. Superhero Demon Hunter. Excuse me. Mammoth Ghost Rider. I will forever hate that his Colossal Retail is both a power action and only activates when a friendly character is KO'd. That is also a terrible reason. He has really garbage retaliation for Mammoth Ghost Rider. It's just, it's too hard to do, and he's way too many points. It's bad.
Yeah, his lowest point value at 100. It's almost like they gave him the point value of old Mystics, where it was unavoidable. I've played against several of the Mammoth Ghost Riders, and being able to outwit and just hit him for a ton of damage, and also have a character that has invincible, so it's like, I'd shrug off penetrating damage from your Mystics. It's such a slap in the face of like what that figure is meant to do and what it's meant to be. Yeah, Citizen
it's rough.
Peter Marshfield says Necron. He seems great in theory, but in reality, is a lack of move and attack really hinders him. Hinders his effectiveness. When the Joker's Wild JSA team can take him down with their simple dials, Necron just gets his clock cleaned. It was at this time he knew that he screwed up when he bought that Necron. So I actually won Necron, not in War of Light. I won it in like a event that happened afterwards. The sculpt is amazing. I love the sculpt, especially with the Black Lantern thing that's like behind him. And he's got a thing, I'm just going off of memory here, so I can't remember exactly, but he's got a thing where he gets a click where it's like everyone on the board, including opposing characters, get regen. But for every click they regenerate, he also regenerates. So if you play against him like a team, like a boss battle kind of thing where there's multiple teams, and someone is silly enough to like heal their like Wildcat, it's like, I really need a regen. now that you gave that to me, Necron also gets to heal, like whatever Wildcat heals. So that's cool, but I agree Necron was like a threat that could take on a lot of Green Lanterns at one time, and if he can't hold up to the JSA, I mean, not to say the JSA's attack values are mostly 10s, there's a few 11s in there, but the big thing is they can share that 18, most of them have like 18s, and then they get like the plus stats, the plus like the simpler time kind of things that make them even better. So being able to have a whole team of 18 defense is pretty big, I think. So that makes sense a little bit as why like they can stand up to him.
Yeah.
Not thematically, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. Vigilante collectible Cyclops pieces tend to be underpowered in my opinion. It should be hard to get near him. He should have the chance to push opposing characters away if they become adjacent. You know what, you're right. I think Cyclops is pretty inaccurate. I believe that if an opposing character also is all red, that he shouldn't be able to make attacks against them at all. That should definitely be a trait all Cyclopses have. But no, yeah, like, he never really punches someone that often, unless it was like AVX or whatever.
Yeah.
He's normally, sitting in the back, shooting those eye lasers.
Well, Cyclops is he is an accomplished martial artist. He's a good hand-to-hand combatant, not on the same level as like Wolverine, of course, the best of the X-Men.
Of course.
But no, like combat reflexes wouldn't be too far of a stretch to give him. If we got a Cyclops that was similar to the rare Captain America from Avengers, Black Panther, Illuminati, I do like the uncommon that we got where he can give. So I think leadership should always come with like a little bonus thing. Either they don't have to be adjacent. If they're a true leader like Cyclops and Captain America, they should always have like a thing where they don't have to be adjacent and they get some sort of boost. In one of the older HeroClix, it wasn't HeroClix exactly, but it was like a HeroClix side game. Leadership just gave you a static +1 like attack value across the board for like if you had that leadership, then you just had +1 stats or +1 attack for your entire team. And I'm not saying Cyclops should have that, but the new Cyclops with his ability to give the free move is pretty cool. I just think they should have more like tactical kind of, rather than taking an action token off. That seems more like a pat on the back that you give someone. You're like, all right, bud, get back in the fight. Whereas I think Cyclops is more like tactical, so he's going to be like, all right, there's a sentinel over there. The best way to take it down is if we shoot Wolverine out of a cannon, and he just like barrages it, So maybe he gives Wolverine Flurry, or he gives Jubilee a +1 to her energy explosion, or he makes Storm decent. I don't know.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like that's definitely true. Alright, we've got protagonist Jeff Polier says, similar to the complaint about Living Tribunal, it's ridiculous that Q doesn't have improved targeting. So if you don't know, if you're not a big Star Trek fan, Q is kind of like the Beyonder or Mr. Mxyzptlk. He's kind of like a fifth-dimensional creature that can pop in and out whenever he feels like. Time doesn't move the same to them as it does to us. They can like hide in pocket dimensions. They can move an entire starship to a different portion of the galaxy or to a different time. They've got crazy amounts of power. And so the rest of his comment says, I would call either version of Q underpowered, though. Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers is often underpowered, overcosted. The movie set had 3 really great versions, the common, rare, the shifting focus, and the non-title chase, but the versions from other sets haven't been good. She should be on par with Superman's power levels, but that rarely happens. And I agree with both of those. So Captain Marvel should be on par with like Superman to an extent, but she's more blasty than punchy.
Sure.
And then I think Q, the fact that he's got no matter what point value you play the new Qs at, he's got super senses. I understand why he has super senses, but Black Dwarf for 100 points has invincible and super senses with a 19 defense. And so I don't think that'd be a bridge too far for Q to have invincible, because it's not easy. They don't like just shoot a phaser at Q and easily hit him. Or maybe he should have had super senses on like a 3 through 6 or something, so that it was like a lot harder to hit him.
Really? You think it's that easy to take care of Mr. Q there? That he needs some like damage reducer apparently? Really? Are you serious? Are you serious right now? Am I honk? We really are in clown world, Simeon. If Q is just the easiest pushover in all of HeroClix in the universe, like I'm not saying he's impossible to kill, but if you happen to notice, dice manipulation is a little good.
Dice manipulation and his ability to auto super senses if he rolls well is pretty cool. So I'll give that.
I'm going to say this. He might be inaccurate, but I would not call him underpowered.
That's fair enough, yeah.
Okay.
He's a little inaccurate. Maybe his higher dials should have had a little more oomph, and then like the 50 point and 30 point for the prime should have just been like what they are now. But yeah.
Give him like top dial 300 points, he has invincible, then the next lowest he has invulnerable, toughness, like whatever. You know, sure, I could see that if that's a thing that would help, I guess. Yikes. Okay, protagonist Ben Jones, Black Widow. There's no great one in Modern. She's a super spy. At least give her an 11 attack top dial if she's 50 or 60 points. Yeah, all the Black Widows are bad. I can confidently say they're bad. Going as far to say as, do they even have stealth? I mean, like, yikes. With these modern Black Widows. They are pretty terrible. I'll totally agree with that, though.
Yeah,
the best Black Widow is Yelena.
Yeah, and she's not even, like, the truest Black Widow, but she's better than
has stealth, but she's
Natalia, but... yeah, Black Widow should have the stats of Lady Shiva from Joker's Wild. She should have like that 12 attack blades that Lady Shiva has. Maybe even some flurry or something to make her a dangerous close combatant kind of thing.
All right. On the side note of that, on HC Realms, the Fast Forces Avengers Infinity Black Widow does have one comment. This is the, all caps, best Black Widow for the points. So someone else is arguing that we actually have the best Black Widow for the points in Modern. There you go.
That,
and that one actually does have stealth as well. So I guess it's a 50-50 on the modern ones that have stealth and don't have stealth. Why don't they all have stealth? I have no idea.
Well, you know, I think to an extent you could even give them like mind control or something, or maybe I don't know, something. Yeah. Danny Meacham says Scarlet Witch. No version we have would scare anyone with the Phoenix Force. Give me a full-powered witch. So yeah, the Scarlet Witch in the comics had the infamous No More Mutants, that like whole storyline slash errata slash thing that she did where she wiped out like 99% of the mutants except the important ones somehow.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, if she had like a double power action, opposing characters couldn't use powers until your next turn. I mean, you'd clearly have to cost her appropriately, but I could see a Scarlet Witch being that powerful.
I totally agree. I'll agree with that. There is no ultimately powerful Scarlet Witch. I could do that. Loyal Miller. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Is it because I am? Yeah, Citizen Loyal Miller says, now to be serious, I feel like Doctor Strange is always weaker than I want him to be in every single way. Yeah, I mean, like, the movies make him seem a lot more powerful than I've ever noticed him being in comics, but I don't read a ton of Doctor Strange unless it's like old Defenders books. So that could be it. Like, the movies definitely make Doctor Strange seem like 1,000 times more powerful than he is, especially when he has the Time Stone.
Yeah.
So that could be it, but also I could see how you would think Doctor Strange is a little underpowered. I think most of them.
I think Sheriff Strange is our he's like our best like our best modern Strange, and even then he doesn't like do a whole lot of Doctor Strange stuff. He's good for what he does, but he's not really like a definitive Doctor Strange figure. I think the D20 Doctor Strange is actually pretty good. He's just a higher costed Faust, which, I mean, it's probably why I've never played him, but I think he's actually, solid for... It makes sense that he can do, like, the Winds of Watum, the Crimson Bands of Sidorak, all the spells that he knows. Sure. Speaking of Millers, Chris Miller says, I would say Nightcrawler. So I think
I don't know. We got some really good Nightcrawlers.
Yeah, we've got some really good Nightcrawlers. Clearly none in Modern.
No, sure. Even the last ones we got in for Uncanny X-Men, I would say those are both really underpowered Nightcrawlers. I would say for sure, especially compared to the other ones. I do like the Days of Future Past and Spear Foes of Spider-Man. Not Spear Foes of Spider-Man, but the Web of Spider-Man Nightcrawler. Those are both great.
Yeah, that's the one like with the crazy hypersonic or like phasing or something. I don't remember what it was he did.
Oh yeah. That Nightcrawler had hypersonic. The Web of Spider-Man, and then the Days of Future Past one was great because he had ESD and combat reflexes, and he had this really cool prob. Anytime he was targeted with an attack at all, he could reroll the dice. Like, that was really cool, like, Bamfy Nightcrawler. Like, it's dope. It's really dope. So I think we do have some Nightcrawlers that are really good, just not recently, which is a bummer. Ray W. says specifically Professor X in the brand new set. Says he's underpowered. I can see why he says that.
Yeah.
Sure. For 100 points, yeah, I wouldn't play that.
I like the Colossal Stamina, and I like his potential, but if your opponent is smart, he's going to just be like the first target, and because no one wants to get him to land on that 12 attack for 4 damage with Pensai. So
wait, you're not going to ping him for exactly 4 damage and then just never touch him forever? What?
Yeah, not going to ping him and also KO an opposing figure to leave him on the board with 12 attack Pensai. Although he doesn't have move and attack or even sidestep on that click, he is still like a threat. So that was all we had on Facebook, though. So what do you have left on Twitter?
On Twitter, we have 6 Ranchan 2.0. Chance McCall said, maybe not the best example, but Dr. Doom always seems 2-point heavy. Now, I'm glad he says this, because this is what I would have instantly countered with. Excluding Zombie Doom, because it's not Doom proper. But that Zombie Doom is so dope, just re-looking at him, that if you played Tri-Sentinels against this Doom, he would just win in like a turn. Because as soon as you destroy any piece of blocking, not just his barrier, you deal that opposing character 1 penetrating damage. So that's just hilarious to me. I do think one thing about the zombie Dr. Doom is that he's a little overpoint costed nowadays, which is true for about all zombies. 175 points for about 7 clicks of life is a little rough for Zombie Doom. He does have an 18 impervious, which is great, but just for how low the dial is and how quick he drops off from like a 10 attack to like, running shot pulse wave without wit and all this really cool stuff. Like, it's so important for zombies to get that first attack off, and it's super important that Doom does, because once he is off that, it's going to be rough hitting, But I still think he's a great Dr. Doom. And of course, it's also really tough choosing a character like Dr. Doom, because we haven't gotten him so long. So, of course, every version is a little weak. It's going to seem super weak nowadays, just because, But hopefully that changes. Hopefully we get a really, really good Dr. Doom coming up. And then the last one is Spike Guy 55 said, in response to his exclusion from the awesome X-Men animated series, I'd say any Apocalypse figure, when he's across the board from you, you should immediately be scared enough to grab your pants. Just by his presence, Apocalypse deserves better. I've literally read nothing ever with Apocalypse in it, so I can't attest to how poop your pants he is just by looking at the guy. But I would assume, since he's basically the X-Men's Thanos or Darkseid for like mutants, that he should. I guess I saw the Age of Apocalypse movie, but that did not do him justice at all. So yeah.
Yeah, he has a whole age named after him. So I mean, out of all the
Ultron
terrible
has a whole
futures,
age.
Yeah,
like.
And we've probably gotten a few Ultrons that are scary, like the Phalanx and the Age of Ultron, like
sure.
the giant robot version.
That's true.
but Apocalypse probably, I'd say like if they made him with his like celestial armor and like full Age of Apocalypse style, it took like Wolverine's entire, I don't know what they called it in the Age of Apocalypse, probably like the Resistance or something, but like it took his like whole team to take Apocalypse down. But his celestial armor is like its own thing that gives him like a crazy power boost, and so he can just wipe out like certain figures right off the bat, or at least he should be able to. I think he falls under a little bit of like power creep, and at the time he was a little toned down to begin with. So yeah, since we haven't seen one recently, and the ones that we did have don't stand up at all today, I agree with that one.
For sure. And then that'll bring a close to our Community Tuesday section. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. We really appreciate that. Moving on to Jedi Legends Hero Clicks Tip of the Week.
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
Going Golden Age, is capture in play? Well, don't forget you can rescue a captured character by declaring a power action and rolling 2d6. Place a token on the freed character who can take an action. I've literally never, ever played with someone who's used capture. Like, literally ever. I don't know how common it pops up. I do know there are some figures that have it, and I always thought it was like a really cool ability, like doing the whole Krampus switch thing that was popular for a while with him and the Demon, whatever his name is. The dude who was like, if you took him out of the plastic, you'd cut your hand 1,000,000 times because he's got this stupid cape. I'll think of his name eventually. Anyways, like, he was really cool. But have you played against capture ever, Simeon?
I've never played against it. I have played with it. And so it's definitely like a Golden Age thing. I don't even think, well, I know for sure there's no, after the 2017 rules, capture was not included in those rules. So if you play it, you have to go with like the pre-2017 rules for it, and just kind of like wing it. You just kind of have to like homebrew it. But for what it worked for me, I would either play Krampus. I know the police car used to have an ability where you could capture as well, but it was basically you make a close attack that deals no damage. You take that, if you hit, you take that character, you put them on like the sideline or on like the character's card that captured them, and then I think you had to get back to your starting area, and there's like a bunch of other rules that went along with it where like you could free them by rolling 2d6 and stuff like that. But if you got back to your starting area with the captured character, the character just like was auto KO'd basically.
Okay, so cool. So overall, if you have capture on your team, you should also bring an old school pack just in case. No, well, was it a pack or was it in the normal rules?
I assume it was in the old pack, but possibly also in the older rules. Yeah.
But yeah, that is
the silly thing about it was if you had, like, let's say you were playing like a 300-point team and someone played like Sentry Void, and you had a team with like a bunch of Perplex and TK, you could like TK your capture person out and like perplex them up and capture Sentry Void. And with the old rules, if a character was off the map, or if the opposing character had no characters on the map, the game just ended. And so against like a 300-point team, if you had capture, you would just like auto win when you captured their one figure, their one-man army kind of thing.
Oh, that was great, because it used to work with mind control too. If you mind controlled their one figure, they had no characters left on their team, so you would just win.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's good that it's gone, but...
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because that sucked.
Yeah. And I think they're moving away from one-man armies anyhow, but, I mean, it still would be... It'd be similar to, like, Copycat, like, just taking one of your figures that you needed. You'd be like, oh, I just don't have that guy until I can, get over there and take him back kind of thing.
Can't wait for the next Golden Age game I play where it's just Copycat and Magneto. It's like, oh, that's a neat strategy you had lined up. Sucks, bro.
Too bad you're missing these two figures.
Yeah, it really sucks, dude. Hopefully they weren't Pinnacle or anything to your team. And then that was Jedi Legends Tip of the Week. Thank you so much, Jedi Legend. Next up, we have a Malcolm Rush question block.
That's in Japan!
Japan? No. I can't go to Japan.
Except we are going to Japan, in a way, in our own fun little way. So he says, for real, stranger, crazy reason, WizKids hired you as consultant. He is right. That would be a crazy reason. Please give your best, worst, and crazy or off-the-wall advice in these areas. So he's got 10 questions. We're not going to do worst, crazy, best, whatever, all of them. We're just going to try to do what we feel is helpful. And if we have something funny or like what a good worst one to be, then sure, let's do it. But number one, you are a consultant about HeroClix for WizKids. Would you solve any problem with any of these or offer any advice? And if you think it's fine, you can just leave it alone. So you don't have to fix everything. You don't have to say, I have a perfect solution for everything, because you might not. It might just be fine the way it is. So number one was packaging of HeroClix. This can go several ways. Simeon, you go for it.
So, for packaging, I was thinking the gravity feed style boosters for 2x2s. So if you've opened any AI boosters or any of the new X-Men stuff, you will see that even though there's some sculpt reuse, so like if you open the Rachel Summers Phoenix and also a Dark Phoenix, that's the same like clamshell kind of packaging that it like is form fitted. Same with Proteus. I think Magneto, Exodus, Eugene, and Madrix and Juggernaut all share the same like little insert kind of thing. If you've opened enough, you realize like there's a lot of kind of wacky shapes that they have going on. And so I think if they kind of made them like the Magneto / Madrix / Juggernaut style one, that'd be great. But otherwise, if they did it like gravity feed style, I'd like that a little bit more, just because it would cut back on, I assume it would cut back on like cost a little bit. They wouldn't have to form fit all of these like shells. I don't know how much money that takes or how much time, but I think that would be a little bit of a boost. And then I went with the Joker's Wild and Superior Foes of X-Men style packaging for full set stuff. That was the one where it was the 5-figure boosters that were like inverted. So the bases went down instead of being stuck up through. And then it also had the little foam pad on the side. And I really liked those because they just they seemed to like secure your figures a little bit better. I think obviously it wasn't as beneficial monetarily. Maybe it cost them more, or maybe it didn't work as well, or what have you. But I think a lot of people liked that style more than the traditional style that we usually get out of 5-figure boosters.
Yeah, for sure. I like the packaging of boosters. I think they're fine. I keep some boosters that I just like. Like this Earth X booster. I just keep a random Earth X booster because I like Earth X. I like the art on it. Speaking of the art, I think it should have a art by when they use someone's art. Obviously, you can tell Alex Ross art. Most people can, but some people can't. So I think it'd be cool to have an art by under the like all the words and stuff. Alex Ross for the artist for whatever booster we use, and then. But like looking at it, it's totally cool. Top selling collectible miniatures game, Origins Award winner. Like, yeah, that's absolutely stuff people should know. You win an award with your game, heck yeah, you want that to be advertised. It tells you collect all 70 figures, like, Choking Hazard, Children Under 3 years. Maybe get rid of the 14 plus as our world champion. Although is 14 was playing for a long time before that. And this was a national And I really do think this is like a really. I
want to know if anyone called a judge like prior to his Worlds win, like back in when he was like playing at the Rocktober Rock Cup, or when he was playing at Nationals. If anyone was like, Judge, I need an ID. Does he have an ID to make sure that he is 14 plus? Because it is a little silly. I think that's on there for like mostly the Choking Hazard and stuff, but
sure.
Yeah.
Well, the Choking Hazard is not for children under 3 years, but it also has the ages 14 plus. So it's a little funny. But I think there's also all these great links where it says learn more at HeroClix.com, become part of the community, all this other good stuff. So I think overall booster design is fine. I don't think I could complain at all about booster design. I like the idea that we are doing one piece of art for boosters nowadays, because apparently for some reason there's a problem, like in the Deadpool set and the Spider-Man set, that one style of booster art just for some reason had a higher chance at getting something more rare, like super rares and chases and stuff. Which is ridiculous, beyond me. Booster art should definitely not determine, because that gives you the edge, right, to figure out what could be in the booster. They're just like, this booster has a chance at getting a more rare thing, or at least that's what people kind of came to the conclusion of. So overall, I think packaging is great. And I kind of wrote the same thing. Bring the foam. I like the foam block back. I don't know if I loved the inverted one, because sometimes my figure I found it easier for figures to pop out, right, because there's no, besides that foam block sort of like an edge over the dial, the figures could still like get popped out. Unlike nowadays, or however they always were, it's impossible to pop them out, because if they go down, it's just cardboard box, so they're not going to fall out or rattle around in the booster. But I really did like the little foam block. Obviously that is expensive and maybe more tedious to do and everything, but it was awesome. I really, really, really liked that with the Spider-Man set. Next up, HeroClix dials. Please include powers, abilities, traits, etc. How would you fix things like HeroClix dials?
So this isn't really out of the box or crazy, but for powers, I would make in-cap include the printed damage with a token afterwards. So it would be, it'd be the same as it is. It'd be like closer range, and it would be deal your character's printed damage, and then afterwards give a hit character's a token. So if you had 3 damage and 2 targets, you could dual target and deal all three to one person, but they were both hit, so they both get action tokens. Because as it sits, it's kind of wonky. It's usually like a power action for a power action. Maybe you have triple target in cap, but normally in cap isn't used unless it's like a special version or it's a really cheap character. Like Dolphin is only 30 points and has 2 targets with in cap. So I've used her before, but I don't think it gets used as often just because it's kind of overcosted for what it does. And then I put allow object attacks with hypersonic if the character has a speed above a certain level. So I'd say like 11 or so, because you don't want Superman, you don't want like KC Superman flying in with his like 6 damage already and then hitting you with an object for 8 from like full speed. But I think Flash is fast enough and also like able to maneuver enough as at his like full speed that he could easily hit you with a light object, and maybe he'd want to do that instead of, hit like Colossus with his fist. So I mean, like, let's say Quicksilver and Colossus are in a fight. Now, Colossus can't really catch Quicksilver because he's too fast for him, but Quicksilver can't really damage Colossus because Colossus is made out of organic steel. So if Quicksilver could pick up like a fire extinguisher or a bowling ball or, something like that and smack Colossus with it, it'd probably be smarter. And also it would make sense that he could do that while running because, that's his whole thing is he runs real fast. So I thought that was fair. It'd be really convoluted to change hypersonic to do that, so it'd probably just be better as a special power on each of those characters. And then I think for mind control, you should be able to target so if you target someone with mind control, you can then move half speed and make a close or range attack, which isn't bad, but if you're fighting against let's say you're playing a 300-point game and you're fighting against a single figure and half of your team is mind control pieces, I think that you should be able to have that figure punch itself in the face, kind of. So you should be able to mind control and roll an attack to see if that character hits itself and then deal its own printed damage to itself. Because, I mean, you are mind controlling it. It's under your control. You should be able to, attack more than just opposing characters with it, in my opinion. Or maybe
a little why you hitting yourself action going on.
Oh, absolutely. Or walk them off a ledge, or simple stuff like that would be pretty cool. And then as far as
I've heard there's a character that can walk people off edges.
Did you pull that off, Calder?
No,
There's not
I'm
a
not going
character.
to talk about that.
There's not a
Apparently, well, not for me. There's not a character that can do that, but I hope for other people there is.
And Devin will work it out on one of his videos, I'm sure. So, as far as like abilities or traits, I'd like to see something that introduces a new game-winning mechanic instead of just KOing figures. Something similar to like building Exodia in like a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, where, or like Black Swan, her like last click. If she was the last character on the team, and she was damaged to that click, then the game just ended and you won, which never happened because anyone that knew the character would never leave her for last or would never damage her in a way that would like put her on that click. It wasn't even a stop click, so she could get hit off of it. Like,
right.
So there's a lot of reasons why that didn't work, but I think just stuff like that where you could have potential other ways of scoring points or winning the game would be interesting. And then, similar to Sheriff Strange, I just think more traits and stuff to rein in other game mechanics. So you get a lot of stuff. We've got like Spiderling, and we've got Commander Steel, and we've got a few other characters that can combat against Colossals and the retaliation mechanic. But I think if we had more stuff for ID cards and more stuff for like special equipment, that didn't seem like it wasn't worth playing. I think Sheriff Strange is worth playing, but a lot of the characters that get rid of equipment don't seem especially worth playing when you can just call in Jean Grey and have her TK it away or TK smash it now. Stuff like that.
All right. Right on. I had just some simple ones about dials. For the most part, I like the way most dials are made nowadays. There are just a few things thematically that I really don't care for. Vehicles being one of them. I feel like generic vehicles, ones that aren't specifically like Punisher van, Spider Buggy, Batmobile, whatever, should not break theme. Hey man, I'm just happy you showed up. Like, I don't care if you drove your Camry here. Let's get it going. Like, I really don't feel like a generic vehicle should break a theme. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally. But they should still have keywords like vehicle keyword and whatnot. Like, I still think that's cool. But I'm not a fan of vehicles breaking theme. Leap Climb needs something. There's a lot of people that have had fixes for it and whatnot. I'm not going to say I have a perfect fix for it or anything. Leap Climb, it still needs something. And for the first time ever yesterday, not yesterday, but during our X-Men pre-release, somebody used Frenzy while doing her Leap Climb to make an attack up elevated. And I was like, nice. This is like the first time. It wasn't my game. It was a game next to mine. But I was like, that is so cool. That's the first time I've literally ever seen someone use that ability that Leap Climb has. It's just so crazy, oddly specific. I'm glad it happened. One change for power I would make, I really liked Precision Strike. I think it got nerfed a little too hard. I really liked it when it would not let your opposing character mastermind damage. I thought it was cool. Like, I am precision striking you. I am attacking you with such pinpoint accuracy that you can't just shove a lackey or whatever, or dodge whatever they think mastermind means, whether they're stepping out of the way or shoving a lackey in front of them, whatever. Like, I'm not trying to shoot that guy. Trying to shoot you, boss man. That's what I'm going for. So I really liked that in Precision Strike, and I want them to bring that back for sure. And number 3, HeroClix sculpts.
For HeroClix sculptures, I really couldn't think of like a ton of stuff. I love like the effects and stuff that they do. I guess like my one suggestion would be like more dynamic poses. Even if it was just like Superman looking like the Superman from the Justice League China. He's doing like the one arm and like like flexing his bicep and the one hand up kind of thing. Even if it's just Superman doing that, or like Cyclops like shooting like a little laser or punch dimension beam, just something more dynamic that makes sense for a character that's attacking or moving or however. stuff like the Kingpin, where he's just like standing behind his desk, and it's like, all right, this is great as like a leader who stays in like the back, but what happens if I like move him his 6 speed, and now he's like standing with a desk in a bush?
He's
like
carrying that desk around, man.
I mean, he's got the muscle for it, but
he does.
It's just like a weird kind of. I mean, Toy Maker. I think Toy Maker. Yeah, he's got like the same kind of thing going on. So there's like a lot of figures that are just they're great. It's gonna be weird with the WWE when like Kane is walking around with a turnbuckle the entire game. And you're like, are you just always in a corner somehow?
Hey,
like
if he's on the right map, he's always adjacent to 2+ ropes, baby. Just saying. Put that bad boy on King's Tomb. Bam, 2+ ropes everywhere.
always ropes.
Always ropes.
For my one suggestion, what other than using like more dynamic kind of poses or more like heroic poses or villainous poses, would be use your existing D&D miniatures. WizKids already makes D&D miniatures. As far as I know, they are not copyrighted like figures, or they're not. It's like a unicorn or like a dragon. Maybe the Beyonder, or not Beyonder. The Beholder might be a D&D only title, but I don't think they really have like trademark on most of those like races and animals and such forth. So if they released a new set similar to the Rest in Peace set with just existing D&D stuff, I think that it would not necessarily do crazy good, but it'd be an interesting thing to get. And then my crazy suggestion would be to make the WizKids team into a team base, or into like a little like viable set on its own. So the WizKids only has about 20 people that work for them, and I think it'd be like a cool shout out to the people that do the work for us if they, were like, this is Mark, product tester, and this is Janelle, the like public relations officer and stuff like that. And so like they might not do like the best in competitive play, but I think it'd be cool just to get that little like shout out. So like,
and of course they can be like Purple Ring, just like the Comic-Con pack was or whatever.
Absolutely.
Real people. Like that would be odd. That'd be funny. That'd be really cool. Yeah, sure. I think a D&D set, like just calling it fantasy, I think that could do actually really well. I think that'd be really cool with the pre-painted D&D style miniatures, and you just call it fantasy, and then boom, easy set right there. I think that'd be really sweet actually.
They've already got the figures. They just have to
that. Yeah.
Stick them on a dial and paint them, and I mean, job
or
done.
even then make them a paintable like X-Men style figure, but just give them a dial,
Yeah. That
switch
too,
click
yeah.
to be a switch click to a small like quarter size 1-inch D&D base, like you can switch click to that. Ooh, that's a great idea. You're welcome. And like anyone from WizKids listening to this is like, it's an okay idea.
Don't pat yourself on the back too hard.
Yeah, chill out there, man. Me for sculpts, less reuse. It's really hurting me. You have no idea. The amount of hype I am for Captain America is in like 99.9. And the only thing that's giving it like the 1% doubt is that it has sub-themes I do not care about. No offense to people that like Thunderbolts, but if it's not just Captain America character from this issue, I do not care about it. I do not care. And then the sculpt reuse is really killing me. The seeing the same shield cap. I really hope he's facing forward this time. That Captain America with the phasey shield on the stairs from Nick Fury was facing backwards, and I really disliked that sculpt for that reason. I do not care for the facing backwards sculpts. Really gets me. I really hate it. Hopefully they flipped it around and he's facing forwards.
Yeah, Steve Rogers was really good though.
He was really good. No, I love that Steve Rogers. I think he's awesome. I think he's really super dope. But I really hate sculpts that face backwards. I really hate it. And then like seeing that Peggy Carter like reuse sculpt or whatever, you're like, oh, that kills me. That really irks me inside. Also for sculpts, I like repaints. So this is the only reason where it sort of is a hypocrite like thing with the reuse and repaints. But I really do dig like the fact that it's old man Captain America with the facey shield, because he has gray hair. Very simple repaint, and I do enjoy that mostly for really good primes. Like primes don't have to have a totally different sculpt. Some do, but majority of the time they're just repaints, and I'm okay with that. And I am okay with repaints. I'm not necessarily saying I guess more of them, but if we're gonna reuse sculpts, reuse them once and make them a repaint, and like that's it. But they reissue a lot of sculpts, and I really don't care for that. And I know why and everything, but still, I like seeing newer sculpts. It's a lot cooler. But like sculpts should have like a 2-use max, and then that'd be it. And then one should totally be a repaint. So just saying. So that's my opinion on sculpts. Other than that, I like most of them. Obviously, I prefer like dynamic stuff. But if they're common and uncommon and they're just standing there, it's not terrible because obviously they're common and uncommon. Like the more work put into the sculpt, it determines their rarity. But
I think
if they're a
I think we could have got like one more use out of the Magneto Exodus sculpt, because that little base that they're on, that little like terrain, I think we could have gotten like just at least like one more. It's very reminiscent of the Spider-Man
team base, yeah.
Spider-Man and Friends team base, and
with the I-beams stuck in the ground and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I think we totally could have got at least one more use out of that, whether it was like a prime or, I mean, even if they use it in like a future set for like a random 2x2 or like a 2x2 convention that comes out or something. I just think that that's like too good to pass up. I know I'm keeping at least like one extra Exodus. One, because he's got some cool effects going on in his hands that'll be easy to reuse on something else. And two, because I can just take Exodus off that base and put literally anything else there, and it's like a cool sculpt now because it's on a 2x2.
For sure. Number 4, marketing/promotions for the game.
All right, so my off-the-wall, bouncing around, high-flying, top rope diving marketing promotion is get a WWE promo. Have like Stone Cold mention it on his podcast. Speaking of which, have Stone Cold come to our podcast. I'll let him use the stunner on me. I don't care.
Ouch.
I can take it. I'm a tough guy.
Sure.
I'm sure I can take one and live. No, I think like the most off the wall thing would be if we could get one of the properties that WizKids has. I'm speaking as if I'm part of WizKids now because of this question. But if we could get one of the properties that WizKids goes through to do like a big promo thing for it, like whether it's like Marvel throwing it in their comics. So if you get a graphic novel, there's no ads. But in the floppies, there's usually ads every like 3 or 4 pages.
Yeah.
If we could get a HeroClix thing in there, if they mentioned it on WWE, that'd be pretty big. There's not really any ongoing Star Trek that we have figures for that would make sense to like do a promo for. There are ongoing Star Trek episodes and series, but nothing from like Next Gen or the original series. If Will Shatner just started playing the game, that'd be pretty cool. So maybe kick him like, I don't know how much that would cost, $10 million to start playing HeroClix.
He has a ranch. He's actually really into ranching. He has a horse ranch, and I bet I could. No way, I could totally. I was going to say I could totally work something out where I could bring him on and we could ride around for a bit, and then I'd invite him to play HeroClix. But that would literally never happen in a million years.
You just got to get a job on the ranch.
On his ranch, okay.
Leave your HeroClix lying around all the time. Like leave all the Star Trek stuff. And he's like, why is there a tiny sculpture of me over here? Why is Leonard Nimoy over there?
Hey, ranch hand, why did you leave these around my house?
I don't know.
Explain myself.
How tabletop gaming works. I only play Magic.
Oh, jeez. That would be like a plot twist for the ages. Oh, gosh. Mine for advertising, I kind of said the same thing. Put them ads in comics. If you go through older comics, there are HeroClix ads in them, and I'm like, what? Why did this stop? Commercials, not like that one commercial, but commercials we could benefit from. I said ad inserts in DVDs. I also bought an older Marvel like animated like Doctor Strange Iron Man DVD, and there was a HeroClix ad in there. Don't know why that stopped. Maybe there's a reason, but that should totally do it. More in-store stands. I really like the in-store stand stuff that they did with like Age of Ultron for the ID card. I thought that was really cool. And even if you go to some stores nowadays, you see the big ID card places, which is really cool. So I really like the in-store stands. I also really liked the videos that were put on like the main DC Universe channel. There's this one gal who would do unboxings, and she did one for Trinity War, which is a fun set. I actually kind of enjoyed Trinity War. And I thought that was really cool. They also had a DC video where these two guys played like a tournament to win a full set of like War of Light or something with all the batteries and all the entities and everything, like when it was new. And they played it, but they played it on a 3D map with like these actual buildings. I might have to try to find the link to that and link to it, but it's a really cool video, and he's using it back when free actions could be used during the beginning of your turn. So this dude was using a bunch of Swifts with the Red Lantern battery where they could free move, and then he would free move Poison. It's actually a pretty gross team, and he built like a really good team. You can tell the other guy didn't build like as good, like as like a team in comparison, which is like really rough. But he still made a lot of good rolls, and it's still like a really cool video. But like videos like that where they sponsor something in a comic book shop and they film these people playing it was really cool, and I really enjoyed those. And another thing for advertising is this is kind of calling back to advertising they did for an Adult Swim show. It's the Venture Bros. They made this is back when Valve was starting to work with Adult Swim, and they wanted to make videos for them. So Team Fortress 2 did a ad with Venture Bros, and they had a bunch of Venture Bros hats implemented into the game Team Fortress 2. And with that, before a couple of ad slots, before Venture Bros or after or whatever in between commercials and stuff, they would play a little Team Fortress 2 little gag thing where the main mercenaries are wearing the hats and they're watching Venture Bros, and like, hilarity, something occurs and it's kind of funny and they run after each other, kind of recreating the main theme sort of for that show. And that was really cool. So if you have a Marvel DC show or whatever, or a tabletop show, work with them in conjunction, maybe with the next set, like if there's something Captain America later for the Captain America set, or obviously Justice League Animated isn't happening anymore, but for like a DC animated movies, they make DC animated movies all the time. You know how when you put in like a THX, like that noise, and it would play like ads for movies before, or trailers for movies before? Have a HeroClix like funny little ad just before a DC animated movie, and I think that would work really well. And I always thought those are really cool. I don't know how probable that is, but I think that would be something that's really neat for ad-wise to do. Number 5, which is WizKids HeroClix tournaments, ROC and non-ROC as well. So this includes things like Majestics or whatever like main ROC tournaments there are, and of course HeroClix tournaments. Think of this from a WizKids consultant though, like not just a person who could work within the venue to make a tournament better, but like as a WizKids consultant, how would you make tournaments? How would you improve, or maybe just not improve HeroClix tournaments?
I think if you had like a dedicated person, maybe like one of your rules guys, and people could submit like a month ahead of time, like, hey, I'm running this WKO, can I run it under this format with these rules? And they'd like look over it, and if it's like a paragraph of rules, then they're just like, no. But if it's like, I want to do Golden Age 400 points, like no battlefield conditions, no ATAs, and no figs over like 2x2 or something like that. I think if they had somebody like on deck that could just be like, yep, that one's approved, no, this one's not approved, and like with like a little explanation why, like, hey, maybe make it simpler or something like that. I think that'd be cool, because either having for normal WKOs, your option is either sealed or it's 300 points modern, and that's super just like it's just like the most basic HeroClix that it can be, and it gets really frustrating when you're trying to interest people in something, and people that aren't like just strictly competitive, they're not going to find stuff that isn't like, they're they're not going to find 300-point modern interesting. But if you tell them, hey, you can bring all your Golden Age stuff, and you just have to make a 300-point team and follow these guidelines, then like that's something, maybe like ban Faust, and that's like ban like a few things. And then that goes to my other point, which would be for if you're not going to do something like that, I think rotating ban list is really good. So let's say for ROC states, they take all of the ROC state winners, and they take their teams, and they take like the top 5 figures that shows up on teams, or the top 5 elements that show up on all the teams, or whatever, and they just ban them until the next series is over. So for ROC states this time, like the Wolverine ID was used a lot, the Super Rare Wolverine was used a lot, and Kobik Trader was used a lot. So like all those elements were they're banned until after the next ROC, and then the next one you see a lot of like Astronomer, you see a lot of Q, so those are banned until the next ROC. And this would be going only by like winners for those events, and it'd just be like, if it shows up in like the top winning slot for like more than 5 events or something like that, then it just gets banned until after the next rotation of events happens. So I think it would at least add something. It might not balance the field, but it would at least add a little bit of something to the format where you don't always have to, like, you don't always get to build the same way, you don't always get to see the same things, kind of thing.
Sure, absolutely. Trying to figure out a really good way to make tournaments more fun and more interesting to go to is tough. I really like Pauper, but it's also saying, hey, you can't use this much of your collection, which kind of sucks. Like, if you, in a perfect world, you should be able to have a Golden Age tournament with no ban list and no, like, whatever. You should be able to use any HeroClix ever made ever, and it should be a fairly fair tournament if everybody has access to every HeroClix ever. But of course, people don't start playing until recently, or people get out of the game, or whatever reason, and it's just not feasible to make a Golden Age tournament without some form of ban list or guideline, which really sucks. So, like, trying to figure out how to make tournaments better is rough. I would say one thing for HeroClix tournaments is make the prizing better. That's one thing I really didn't talk about. We said we were kind of focusing on format, and I was for a lot of it when I was looking at this question. But the reuse sculpt prizing, and then one new box LE prizing, and then plus the object for whatever. The object is fine for top 16. Like, that's cool. I think that's neat. And the reuse prizing is okay too, but the Chase Prime set was huge. And even if it's just like the Rock States, which is just you choose a Chase or choose a Prime, I think that is also awesome. Anything like that is super cool. So the Chase Primes are just a really good reason to like play. Like, it's really cool. And if the next Rock States is like X-Men, I don't know if they did say it was going to be X-Men for a Chase Prime set. I know the last one was Thor, and so they're not doing the latest Chase Prime set. Lord, no, of course not, because Ultra Chases and Super Rare Primes are a thing, so it's probably not. And I think it actually is Thor again, so I could be wrong, so just don't destroy me, all right? But I really like the choose one Chase Prime, whatever, boxed Con LE. I think that's really great. And send them, instead of just these WKO exclusive Con LEs, I guess they're not really Con LEs, but WKO prizes also have, 3 or 4 worlds exclusive, whatever, convention exclusives, just like how Rock has them in their kits. I really like the Rock prizing kits. Of course, WizKids doesn't have a bunch of neoprene maps and stuff, but if they want to include their boxed exclusive LEs, where it's like, okay, look, you can only get this at Origins and at Worlds for like these many months. It gives them the exclusivity. It gives you a reason to show up to those events. But after so long, it's like, okay, and now you have a chance to win them, but only at these events. They still have an exclusivity, and they still have a want and demand without giving them away willy-nilly. But it still makes them easier for people that just can't afford to go to those events. But instead, yes, I can play locally, and I can try my hardest to win these. So I like that idea for fixing prizes. For format, I really honestly don't know. So yeah, number 6, it is non-comic book HeroClix and other properties WizKids own. What would you do with those? Simeon, go for it.
So non-comic book HeroClix and other properties that WizKids own or may not own. My one big thing would be go after anime. Go after like the Shonen Jump series. I think that the Venn diagram of people who play HeroClix and either kind of like anime or like at least one anime, I think the crossover is pretty big. I think it's bigger than Star Trek. I think it's bigger than WWE. I think it's bigger than maybe even TMNT. I think, not necessarily... I'm not like the biggest fan of Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, but I think that those shows really connect with a lot of people. And, I mean, clearly they've done well. They have, Dragon Ball Z is up to episode over 9,000. And, the memes, that's all I know from Dragon Ball Z.
Jeez.
So like, Kame, Kameha, and then I throw something at someone, because that's all I know. But no, I truly think that if they went after like a solid anime series or a collection, I think a collection would be better if they could somehow swing that. I think they do really well. And then I think they should partner up with some other like TV series that has their own like originals. So just for example, like let's say they partner up with Netflix, and Netflix has like the Umbrella Academy originals. Somebody on HC Realms did a bunch of Umbrella Academy figures, like custom figures, and they did a really good job of doing like the sculpts. They like pieced them together with random other figures. They modded like them together really well, and then they did custom dials and stuff. That made me think like if they could partner up with Netflix or maybe Hulu or some other, like let's just say like NBC or ABC, they might not get like the best properties from whoever they partner up with, but it'd be another source to pull from. And I think that'd be the main thing, is another source to get stuff from. And to go along with that, partnering up with like IDW, who has Transformer comics and My Little Pony comics and G.I. Joe comics, and I mean the list goes on and on and on and on. If they partnered up with another comic book company and they released like another indie set, Image alone has, you've got Saga, you've got Invincible, like just like an endless list of like creator content that is worth going into. I think that they could partner up with something like that. It'd be really cool.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can dig that. I can totally dig that. So, for existing WizKids properties that I know about, right? This is such a tough question because it's really personal for me that I really wanted to do. So I know they can't do some of the NECA stuff, because just because NECA has it doesn't necessarily mean WizKids has access to it. So I totally get that. That's totally cool. But I really want to know what happened to the Valve Dota property. I do not like MOBA games. For anybody that likes League of Legends, whatever, you're a loser. And if I offended you, I'm sorry. Okay, you're not really a loser. I'm a loser for not knowing how to play those games. That game seems very repetitive, seems like a bunch of clicking and blah, 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 and I get super bored. Super bored, super fast of it. It's not interesting. The lore is not interesting, whatever. And I know I'm very alone in this, in the amount of people that care about a 12-year-old game, but I would literally kill, FBI government agent listening to this, I would kill someone for Team Fortress 2 HeroClix. You have no idea how huge that would be to me. The fact that we got a chess set and Dota got actual HeroClix, as bad as they were, it just irked me so much. So yeah, if I don't know, whatever happened to the Valve property, I really think any of Valve's games, you could just make starter set. Team Fortress 2, 9-figure mega starter set, boom. A year later, does well, whatever, make a blue starter set. Next thing, make a robot starter set. Same thing. Portal, just literally just make shell if you want to as an LE figure for a convention, right? Just like how they did static outside of all the other starter sets. Literally just make shell and a companion cube object or something as like a double pack starter set. That would be freaking awesome. You know, a Left 4 Dead 2 or Left 4 Dead starter set where it's like the main 4 survivors or like 4 of the survivors versus 4 of the zombies, you know? That'd be
Smoker,
dope.
tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. Valve has some of the coolest properties ever, and honestly, they're a terrible company to work with. I know that, like, as a fact. There's so many people can, like, testify to that. They're terribly lazy because they work on their own schedule. That doesn't make them lazy, but they work on their own schedule, and it seems to be an impeccably slow one at that. But they have so many really good properties, but they're just hard to work with. They really are. So it sucks. But I really would love to see that non-comic book stuff. As far as, like, properties I know they for sure have for non-comic book stuff, which is like WWE, Orville, Star Trek. As long as you continue to make those, even if they have a very small audience that even wants them, as long as you continue to make those good, like Q, I guarantee half these competitive people have no idea who Q is, but you made him pretty solid that his price went up and you made him rare enough that people were trying to buy a lot of the set. So you still made good sales on the set. Same thing, if any of these WWE figures seem to be really good, well, that one figure, although just $8 for the majority of its lifetime on the secondary market because of probably how few stores, realistically, are actually going to be getting in the set because so many stores, our store, for example, was like, does anybody want these WWE figures? I'm literally at the computer right now, I'm about to order them. And everybody was just like, I want a ring, I want a ring, I want a ring, that's it, you know? And then no one said, like, oh, throw in a Macho Man for me, or maybe get a couple of Andre the Giants to put on the shelf, you know? No one did that, you know, which is a huge bummer. I know maybe not enough people have a tight-knit relationship with stores and everything. But, like, you got to make something that's more friendly. Like WWE, although I think it's really cool you can just specifically buy your own, not a lot of stores are going to be specifically getting the WWE because they know their fan base. Now, if it's like a blind box thing, they probably would have just bought a CTD blind box just to have it on the shelf, you know? So I think that could be one way to do it. Of course, we still have yet to see. I'm still saying this hypothetical, but we've known this hypothetical for so long that we all probably feel like we know more than we actually do. So until we actually see it in practice and see how that reflects and see how they make more sets, it depends. It totally depends. I really can't wait to go to some live wrestling. Like, I've been to SmackDown twice so far. I really can't wait to go to it after the WWE set is released to see if they have it at their merch booth. Obviously, if you've ever been to wrestling, you know they have huge merch booths every time with all the latest stuff. I would really be interested to see. And I would honestly just look at the merch booth for, like, I'd get there an hour early just to see people be confused at whatever HeroClix are at the merch booth. I would really love to see that. Wow, it took a long time answering number 5, or number 6, which reminds me of 3 more to get through. I'm going to try to speed it up. My bad, guys. That's on me. Number 7. How to make the game easier for new players to get into. Simeon, go for it.
So for new players, I always start off with, like, depending on how versed they are with tabletop gaming, I always try and start them off, if they're like completely new to like the entire concept, I start them off with like, this is a grid map. You like, one square is one movement, it's one range, you know, all that stuff. And then I just start them off with like the basic stats. I say like, don't even pay attention to the colors. You just move, and then like, if someone's in your range, you can shoot at them. If someone's next to you, you can punch them. You roll dice and you add it to this stat, and like you see if it hits that stat. So that's the basics. That's like the very bare bones of the game. And then you get into the powers, and if you start getting into the powers like charge and stuff, you have to get into why they combine and how they combine. Which, I mean, one's like, I want to play Hulk. And you're like, great. You're going to play that Hulk, but you're going to play it with like none of the powers on the dial. Well, now that 300-point Hulk is not going to hold up against anything because, you know, it's not designed to not be played with the powers. So you have to like inform them of that as you go, which brings me to like my main point of this, which is to make it easier for newer players. You want really basic figures, but you want them with really good stats. Maybe like 1 or 2 traits where it just says, you know, something like some blanket statement where it says like every friendly character to Captain America gets a +1 attack when attacking opposing characters, or every Avenger gets, like, when Captain America is on this team, every Avenger gets a +1 speed, even if they don't have the Avenger team ability. Something like that, where it's like a very blanket statement that's easy to like comprehend and easy to like apply to a game where these people are learning, and they're, you know, you don't want to like throw them off with like the Captain Marvel Ultra Chase where it's got like 2 paragraphs describing how he comes back to life and how the game proceeds.
Yeah.
That's really all I can say.
So
is
weird.
Just make it a basic figure. Like charge, running shot is like good. Hypersonic, that's all good. Don't give them any like special powers, but also give them stats that, where if like, you know, like the thing with like the sidekick knights, where you'd get this pack of these characters, you'd get these great characters, great sculpts, and they just don't hold up in like normal 300-point games because the stats weren't there, and they didn't have like the traits or the special powers to add up to what their point value was. So you'd be playing a 100-point Captain America with like energy shield and toughness or something mid-dial, and he would just get, you know, attacked by like a Wolverine and blades for 5, and he'd just be like, oh, I guess my 100-point character's dead now. Or maybe give them really long dials for new characters, because, you know, they're going to take hits in their like early games. They're not going to like, you know, they're not going to have the positioning down exactly right, so like, you know, let them take a few hits, give them the 100-point dial, but make the dial 10 clicks long or something crazy like that.
Okay, right, for sure. Kind of going off of quick start figures or Psychic Knight stuff, you can make a competitive, viable, overpowered figure with 5 powers or 4 powers, you know? Very, like, give a person like getting into the fray, give them all this, charge, running shot, you know, boom, they have 2 powers now. Give them something like toughness, ESD, combat reflex. Well, that's terrible. Let's give them all toughness, ESD, combat reflexes for like learning wise. But you know what I'm saying? Well, you can give them like 5 powers, you know, running shot, charge, pen blast, whatever, and they can all be great. And then they could not be garbage, and they can be like, oh wow, I learned with this figure, and also I can use this figure really well. It doesn't have to be, you know, Unimind, put a blue flame on your sideline for each 5 points, eternal, blah, 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 +2, lose, power cosmic, gain, willpower, stop, click. Like, no, it doesn't need all that stupid garbage to be a good figure, especially a simple one for people to learn.
Yeah, I think starter set Hulk is like the golden ticket as far as...
For sure.
So like the 50-point starter set Hulk, he's got the 12 attack, 18 defense, 4 damage, and he's got the leap climb ability where afterwards he can quake. It's like, alright, so look in your pack, this is what leap climb allows you to do, and then after you've moved, which leap climb is a move, so after you've done that, you can now quake, and this is what quake does. And so if it's like a single target, it's going to do 4, if it's a multi-target, it's going to do 2. That's great for a new player, because like other than that one trait, his dial is completely like plain. And if they want to play him at 100, like, you know, they're more than welcome to. The only reason he gets played at 12 or at 12, the only reason he gets played at 50 points more often is because he starts with a 12 attack, 4 damage on that click. He's better stats at 50 points than 100. Which, you know, it was supposed to be, you play him at 100 and he gets knocked down.
He's getting angrier.
Yeah, but it's more like, why would I pay an extra 50 for worse stats? But yeah, the whole premise is there, and they've done it before. Sometimes they just make them too convoluted. I think the Earth X star was actually really good, where they had like 1 power or 1 trait that was good and wasn't like overly complicated, and then the rest of the dial was just plain powers that you could kind of show people, and they were cheap enough where the point value wasn't bad. But most of the time, I feel like most of the time with starters and fast forces, the point value is just like way too high to be viable in like a casual game even. So it's like, oh, I bought this X-Men Fast Forces. I'm gonna play like all these X-Men, and they get out there and like it's like, all right, you've got like no reducers, so like your whole team just gets wiped by whatever like this guy pulled from his actual, full booster.
Right. Sure. And like how I said, dude's got literally 4 powers. Like it's super simple and he's awesome, So make more figures like that in your starter sets. Another thing is really dial it back on the Fast Forces. Make more starter sets so I can easily point to new people on the shelves. That has everything you need. I really liked the Avengers versus X-Men starter sets because they had the tokens, the dice, and the figures and a map in all of them. That was the perfect starter set. And I feel like you should make 1 or 2 of those every year.
Yeah, and I
sit on shelves.
I love the ones
perfect way to get in the game.
The ones where you have 300 points of good guys and 300 points of bad guys, or 300 points of like opposing teams, whether they're good guys or bad guys. That's always great too, because it's like me and my friend want to get into this game, but like we don't know what to do. It's like literally just buy that. It's got the map, it's got the dice, it's got like the terrain and the objects, and then each of you can pick. Like, if you want to play Brotherhood, you get to play Brotherhood. If I want to play X-Men, I get to play X-Men. Etc., etc. Maybe you each buy one, and then you mix and match. So like you've got some sort of weird Wakanda Illuminati X-Men team, and he's got Magneto and Okoye, I don't know, something like that.
Nice. All right, number 8. Wow, we're almost there. How to keep the game interesting for older players. Simeon.
Make sure your venue is handicapped. Oh wait, older players, not older people.
Yep. You got
my
it.
bad. So mine's kind of like more of a wish list, since I consider myself an older player. I've been playing for several years. Not as old a player as most people, or I'd say like 90% of players, but I consider myself an older player. So mine's kind of a wish list. Number 1 would be bring back God packs. So it's like more of like the thrill of the chase. For those of you that don't know, a God pack, when you open your 5-figure booster, it normally comes in clear plastic. God packs came in either like a blue or black plastic, and so it was like as soon as you like popped it, you'd be like, no way, and there'd be like this colored plastic, and you wouldn't be able to see the figures inside until you slid the whole thing out. But like as soon as you opened it and you saw that color, you knew what was in there. And I think World's Finest was the last one that we had with God packs, and it would basically just be, so it'd be 5-figure booster, it would be 5 of the chases, so it'd be 1 in like 100 bricks or 1 in 100 cases or whatever. So it was very rare, but the one person that managed to get it would instantly have 5 of the chases. And so that it gave you like a thrill. It gave you like a reason to like buy cases, buy bricks, buy random boosters off the shelf to see if you got, that kind of thing. And then I think something to keep it interesting for new players, or keep it interesting for older players, would be new mechanics. Like, not necessarily like the retaliation or ID card kind of style thing, but along the same line, I think if they keep doing like new mechanics like that, the terrain dials was like a really good one in my opinion. I love the fact that a vehicle doesn't just disappear when it's destroyed, it turns into terrain. That's something that I really liked. I think they're on like a good track with that. And then bring back older mechanics like the capture ability.
I knew you were going to say capture. I don't know why, but as soon as he said, I was like, he's going to say the capture ability.
So I mentioned it earlier, and yeah, it was a prelude because I knew this was coming up, and I love the capture ability. I love what it does for the game. I think resources should be brought back in a similar kind of vein. They've already dialed back what relics, or not, they're not relics anymore, they're special objects, but basically what relics used to be. So you'd have to roll for like certain items because you'd have to like see if you could actually use it. You know, is this character smart enough? Is this character worthy? Is this character strong enough? Etc. So relics you actually had to roll to equip. I honestly think that Mjolnir probably should have been like a callback to a relic where you couldn't just equip it with anyone. Like, you know, Exospecs has a point thing where if you're not above a certain point value, you can't equip it. That's great. Like, more stuff like that, you know. You shouldn't, like, my like little generic thug guy shouldn't be able to take Mjolnir and hit somebody with it. He's not worthy. He's clearly not worthy. He's only 5 points and he's got sidestep and combat reflex, or sidestep and close combat expert or something. So older mechanics like that, I think, would be great to bring back. And then my biggest thing is make the achievements in the win system worth something. There's so many cool achievements, just like when you're playing a video game and it's like, you've unlocked this achievement, you get like, you know, 5 gamer score points. If you go on the win system and you have a win ID and you play, you know, local games enough, or, you know, you just play games enough with that win ID, you'll notice that you get different achievements. And as of right now, they don't do anything. So, like, we used to have with the World's Finest and the Avengers Assemble and the Nick Fury IDs, we had codes that you could enter, and you'd enter them in, and you'd get, like, the little achievement for them. I never entered any of those because I didn't have a reason to. It didn't give you anything. Like, there's no virtual, you know, there's no virtual hero clicks that you unlock. There's no, like, bonus that you get. But I think if you prove yourself as, like, a veteran player that has, you know, several achievements, maybe they give you, like, a discount on their convention store, or maybe they send you like an old con LE once you like hit like a certain amount. Maybe the person that's logged into like the win system as like the number 1 slot in like each area, like number 1 in each area gets, you know, a certain like item or something. Stuff like that I think would be pretty cool.
No, I agree. Actually, I was looking at the win earlier today. I finally have broken 100 wins to my amazing 97 losses on the win system, which is dope. I am also realizing that everything in the Worlds tournament for each event I was in was not in the win system at all. Because there should be higher numbers if those were actually put in the win, but they aren't, which is interesting.
Yeah, so to go along with that, there's a ton of people that are like really good at HeroClix. They're, you know, they play in like the top level, but they don't have a local. So I have, like, for me, I have 3 local places that I could go to, and if I really felt like driving, I could probably do like HeroClix like 5 nights out of the week. So I could totally game the system and be at like the top of the leaderboard in my area. Then there's people that live in the middle, like, you know, like a dead zone for HeroClix, and they have to drive like an hour in any direction to get to a HeroClix event. But they're much better at HeroClix than me, and so I think that it would it'd be interesting, but they definitely have to figure out like a way to make like nationals and worlds rankings factor in more heavily than normal rankings, because yeah, like I remember checking back around nationals, and I was like top 10 in like the month for like the world, because I had like whatever my points were. I must have gone to enough events lately. I'm at 256 wins out of 169 losses, by the way.
Ooh, I really need to work on my losses there. I've went 1-2 for like the past 3 or 4 weeks, like locally. I've been playing terribly. What can I say? I'm bad at HeroClix. Well, I mean, I really
I don't. So in the last 12 months, I'm ranked 206th, and in the third quarter, which is July to October, I'm 101st. But yeah, it's nothing to like brag about because, like I just said, I go to 3 venues at a time, and it's not like I play to win at each venue. You know, I mostly play to have fun. So if I really wanted to like boost my ranking and crush people every week, you know, I could try to do that, but there wouldn't be a huge purpose for me, especially right now, because there's no reward.
And I really wish there was, because like in video games, people who would ever get a platinum in a game, you know, when you get all the trophies in a PlayStation game or whatever, you get a platinum trophy saying like, hey, you literally did everything you can do in this game. They normally get that within like the first week or two of a game's release, because they're just boom so fast to platinum something. It's crazy, and I wish that there was a rush to get these achievements, because it kind of feels cool playing video games in real life. Anybody that plays Pokemon Go, it feels kind of neat that your real-world location, there are things going on that you can do through your phone. Like, that's actually a really cool experience, and I think it's a really neat idea for the game. It seems like there's the Harry Potter game and blah, 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 stuff like that. So I wish that HeroClix was kind of the same way. You know, we're actually playing all these games, and it'd be really cool if you could somehow track the teams you used, so you can keep track of each figure that you've ever played. And for like, if you play through like every single figure ever made, like if you can track your teams and be like, I have played from Infinity Challenge to like Arkham Asylum or whatever, and I played each figure in that set. You know, maybe not count all the Rev stuff, or maybe just make it new, but like getting an achievement for having played every figure in a set would be really cool if there was a way for you to track that. You know, if there's a way for you to put in some kind of booster code, or even track how much money you spent on HeroClix. Maybe you don't want to know. You probably don't. But it's like scan your code here. Oh, it's a terrible thing to think about. I don't know why I mentioned that. That's not a good idea. That'll go under worse.
You could have had all this money that you no longer have. No, I think if you know those like ROC pins that they'd send out to the judges, they'd be like,
oh yeah,
you were an ROC judge for like 2018 or 2017, like congratulations on like, you know, donating your time to the community. If the win system did that, so like just looking through my random achievements on here, play in 10 different stores. If they gave you a little pin for you know, play in 10 different stores, or win one HeroClix event, like, you know, similar to like when I donate blood, I get like a little like, you've donated a gallon of blood, and it's like, it means absolutely nothing in like the grand scheme of things, but it's this nice little like pin that you have that you can put like, you know, on your lapel or your hat or your backpack or, you know, what have you. So you could have like HeroClix swag, be like, look at this, I was in the top quarter of all players in 2019, or I was the top player in 2019.
That would be really cool. That would be cool. And just like donating blood, can you get like a donut, like a cookie afterwards too for your HeroClix achievement? Like, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, WizKids.
Someone like all of a sudden like here's like, you know, like a bubble envelope, like here's your donut, and it's like all smashed. I'm like, yeah, nice. I'm gonna eat this now. All right, number 9. We should probably try to get through these. DC, Marvel, TMNT, and WWE. How to improve them? Give it to me.
I, you know, did not have a ton of ideas for this, surprisingly.
That's cool.
So my off the wall ideas is more characters. You know, keep what you're doing. Keep doing the thing where you keep making stuff, and we keep buying it. That's pretty cool. My really off the wall, you know, bank shot, you know, half court, hook shot, Kobe, is make the power levels consistent between things. So if I have a 50-point Worf, he can hold up to a 50-point Wolverine. Or if I have a, you know, 50-point Leonardo, he can hold up to a 50-point Batman or Nightwing. You know, if Nightwing has access to Outwit, Perplex, Ranged Combat, Close Combat, Sidestep, and he's in Stealth, maybe my 50-point Wolverine should be able to do something. I don't know. other than, the nose kind of thing. But that's really the most that I have for that. Is just consistency between sets would go a long way in my opinion.
And this probably goes down for consistency as well, but I'm going to try to rattle through these. DC, modernize it. So that means booster sets with the big fig in them, just like the 2 Marvel sets we've had. We've now had 2 Marvel sets with that 0 DC sets. Like Rebirth terribly had no cool mechanics that were across all the other sets. It had some mechanics specific to it, but it still didn't feel like it was made in the same year as a set like Black Panther and the Illuminati. Modernized DC to make it feel equal to everything else. Marvel, it's good. You don't really have to touch it. It's doing pretty good. It kind of steers the boat for most play. Kind of sadly, honestly, and even being a Marvel guy, that is kind of sad that one theme seems to be better than others. Ninja Turtles don't reuse sculpts as much, have more character variety. That was kind of a bad downfall of TMNT overall, right? I think we can sort of all agree on that. And WWE, how to improve it so far, I think it's really good, but in future sets, I think they would really improve from objects. Objects being included, kendo sticks, chairs, baseball bats, sledgehammers. I mean, I know we already have Triple H, and it'd be really weird to give him a sledgehammer afterwards, but still, I think there's a way you could still do that, and I think it'd be really cool. Star Trek. Don't make any more Star Trek. Number 10.
I knew you were gonna...
Yeah, you want to fight me about that? Anyways, number 10. Oh, yes. I also had Star Trek
to silence.
Another Star Trek I also had was Make It Wars. That's just 1,000 times better than anything Trek. So, number 10, the very last one, was any other advice about HeroClix, more of a blanket term.
For general HeroClix, this kind of goes along with the whole achievement system, reward system. I think that they should set up a recycling program where if you send in 100 booster boxes and 100 of the little plastic, whether it's gravity feed or the booster sleeves or what have you, I think if you send in a bunch of those to them so that they can recycle them, that they should, give you a random con LE or something. Because most of the time, I know every venue I've ever been to will open 2 cases of a product, and all the bubble, all the plastic, everything that's not figures and cards just goes in the trash. And it's not the biggest thing in the world, but I think that it just, in my mind, if my venues all do that and everyone else's venues all do that, there's just a huge heap of trash that HeroClix is contributing to the environment. And I don't know, I feel like the plastic could be reused in some way. I don't know how, but I know. I know my personal ones that I get at home, I do put in the recycle. You can put the little sleeves. They're a number 3 recycle or something like that. You can put them in your little home recycler thing if your town or city does those things. But the cardboard doesn't really do much more than be cardboard.
Yeah, I agree. I guess on that line, I didn't really grow up recycling. We just burned it.
Well, yeah.
Burning.
Yeah.
I'm cool with burning. But nowadays, we just kind of throw stuff away. So I guess I should do something like that. I never really think about it, but when I do an unboxing, not just on the YouTube channel, but when I used to do them live and stuff, I would just throw them, whatever, total disregard for the random packages and stuff. And when you see it scattered across the floor, you're like, wow, there's so much in there. There's the plastic that holds the card, there's the plastic that holds the figure, there's the box itself, With the new set, there's all of that, plus bubble wrap, there's a ton.
This new set was so bad. I opened a lot, and it was so bad between the bubble wrapped individual figures, the clamshell for the big figures, the boxes, and the sleeve for the cards. Between all of that, it was just a mess to try and this was the worst set in a while for unboxing that I've done. And yeah, No, like when I was growing up, we had a barrel that we put our trash in and we burned it. So that's what you do out in the places where trash companies don't come to you.
But all right, that wraps it up for Malcolm. Thank you, Malcolm, so much for these questions. I swear we probably spent 45 minutes answering these just because they were really in-depth ones that had just such a huge possibility for answering. We've gotten through all of the show. If you are still here, give yourself a pat on the back. Thank you for not seeing the crazy long time for this episode and being like, there was literally no news this week. What are these guys possibly talking about?
What on word?
Do not care about them that much, So thank you guys so much for going on. Before we end the show, we do have someone on the Dial H birthday calendar, and that is none other than Devin Adams with the Happy Little Hero Clicks YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and give him a happy Arabian birthday.
Happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
As always, you can find Dial H for HeroClix on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, and a bunch of random podcast apps. Just go ahead and search it, whatever your friends might use. Be like, hey, I know that's not a normal app used for podcasts, but go ahead and type in Dial H and just see if it pops up. You can find it on all those platforms. If you want to follow us on Facebook or Twitter, Facebook is facebook.com/DialH for HeroClix. Twitter is DialH4, that's a number 4, HeroClix. Go ahead and tweet at us. Send in messages, questions, compliments, anything about the show. And again, you can rate us 5-star on iTunes, which is a huge help to get our content showing up more. If you like unboxings, we now have those on the YouTube channel. So go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Those will be uploaded hopefully every Thursday. And as always, thank you so much for your support. Simeon, do you want to go ahead and read us out of here?
Yes, I do. Before we go, though, I do want to mention one of my locals. His name is Dustin. I'm not going to give out his last name just so he remains slightly anonymous. He lost his service dog of, I think it was over 10 years. So he had a service dog. And that, I mean, at a certain point, whether it's a service dog or a, pet, of course they become part of the family. And he lost his dog recently, and the dog was always, his name was Tippy. So Tippy was always in when we played at Krypton, and he was just like a member of the community for everyone. And I wasn't part of the community there as long as everyone else. So I didn't know Tippy as long, I didn't know Dustin as long, but he was a huge member of our community there, and we lost him recently, and that was a big blow to Dustin. And one of Dustin's friends that happens to work at Cool Stuff Inc., he sent him a care package that had a customized HeroClick with a repaint job, and he had a nice little collar put on him and everything of a little super Tippy. And Dustin shared that with me this Thursday, and it was just a really cool thing to see. Cool Stuff reaching out to him like that and trying to brighten his day in the dark hour that it was. So I just wanted to share that with the community before we went. And on that note, I'd like to remind everyone that Dial H for HeroClix is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, including all of our latest HeroClix singles and sealed products. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Happy trails.